across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Happy Monday. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. Or is it good afternoon? Never really certain on that. And also, it's not the Political Asylum, is it? That's my other show. This is Drive Time. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan. I'll be your host for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, February the 2nd. Here's what's coming up. The Epstein files are turning out to be more significant and much more damaging for Britain than they have been so far for America. Trump remains untroubled and untouched by the avalanche of revelations cascading out of Washington, and frankly, who cares about Microsoft tycoon Bill Gates allegedly catching a sexually transmitted disease. But the questions for the UK are serious. Did that ignorant oaf Prince Andrew, now known, among other names, as Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, trade national secrets with the likes of Chinese despot Xi Jinping? And was former Business Secretary Peter Mandelson in the pocket of Epstein, receiving, according to the most recently released files, $75,000 personally from the American billionaire businessman, while his partner begged for and was wired thousands of pounds across the Atlantic? Mandy insists he can't recall enriching himself at his so-called best pal Epstein's expense, and he says he needs to investigate. No, Pete, the police need to investigate you. After he resigned in disgrace from the Labour Party today, isn't it time that his lordship had his collar felt? 0344 499 1000. But first, the heartfelt cry of an anguished mother robbed of her beloved daughter by the chaos of the migrant crisis, when Donna White pleaded with Keir's crew to stop letting in thousands of young foreign men about whom we know nothing, one of whom stabbed her girl Rhiannon 23 times with a screwdriver. Do you think there was even the outside chance that this gormless government was listening? 0344 499 1000. Also today, the convicted terrorist wannabe Birmingham councillor who believes jihad slaughter is a compassionate act and who urges all Muslims never to be friends with Jews and Christians. Is that integration? 0344 499 1000. Also, the grovelling apology by the Met Police for failing to protect a London Jewish restaurant from a violent, howling, anti-Semitic mob. The pathetic virtue signalling of the showbiz lovies polishing their anti-Trump halos at the Emmys, and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together. And in the studio for the first 20 minutes or so, I've got my former producer and now our brilliant ace reporter. She doesn't like being called an ace reporter, but I don't know what else to call her. Samara Gill, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. I feel like I threw you off a bit there, Kev. It was like the political asylum days.
Yeah, I just said, welcome to the political asylum. No, it's not the political asylum. Great start to the week.
It's an asylum of sorts.
It's an asylum because I'm in charge. Right, let's get this madhouse going. But this is very serious because I wanted to get you in about several issues today. But for me, still today, the big story is the anguished cry of Rhiannon White's poor mother, Donna, in her witness statement at court last week when she addressed the man who stabbed her daughter, Rhiannon, to death 23 times with a screwdriver. His name is Deng Majek. She went on to ask Keir Starmer and his government, are you listening? Will you take this murder? Will you understand that this murder is the result of your policies on the migrant crisis? It's not the only murder. It's not the only rape. It's not the only sexual assault, violent assault. More and more crimes are being committed by these people that we've imported, these young men that we've imported from foreign countries, foreign cultures, a long way away, with very different attitudes towards law, order and women. Donna White's cry from the heart was extremely moving and extremely powerful. You have spoken to Donna White today or over the weekend, Samara. I mean, she is, of course, grieving the loss of her daughter, but she is also grieving what this country has become. We allowed this to happen. We imported this guy, along with thousands and thousands and thousands of young men of sexually active age from foreign countries that we don't know anything about. We just let them in, put them in a hotel, give them free food, free lawyers, free doctors, free dentists, 50 quid a week, 4-star hotels. We don't ask any questions, and some of them go out and do this. It's a absolute crisis, isn't it?
You're right. She was a little lady and little but powerful in how she spoke to me, and she has been completely betrayed by consecutive governments and, to be honest, what this country has become. It was very, very harrowing to talk to her. It's something that I was almost shaking after the interview, and usually I don't get like that, but she has she's had her life destroyed. And what's even worse is that the 5-year-old who Rhiannon leaves behind has also had his life destroyed, and he sleeps with a toy with his mum's face on it, and he cries every night for her. And that is because of something that could have been prevented if Starmer had actually stopped the boats like he keeps lying to us and saying that he will. I mean, it's ironic, but this killer, this murderer, came in on a boat the same day that Axel Rudakabana committed those crimes against those girls in the dance hall. So if that's not a country in disrepute, I don't know what is. Genuinely, the government hasn't reached out to her. I think we've got a clip of her talking about how she has had total silence from people like Shabana Mahmood. Well,
let's have a listen. This is Donna White, Rhiannon White's grieving mother.
Shabana Mahmood has stayed completely silent about this. She's the current Home Secretary. She's still allowing boatloads of unchecked men come into this country and invade it. She hasn't uttered Rhiannon's name.
Shameful. She should be ashamed of herself. Would they feel the same if it was their families? Who knows?
I'm really haunted by this story. There's a picture of Rhiannon with a little 5-year-old boy like that. It's a picture of pure joy, a mum with her little son. Apparently, when the little boy was told, "I'm afraid you won't be seeing your mum again," he let out this howl of kind of primeval distress. I mean, this is a 5-year-old kid. This is the result of our migrant crisis policies, isn't it?
She said that he is broken. I mean, I had some comfort in the fact that, you know, Siobhan, or Donna as she likes to be called, is a great grandmother, and, you know, he's living with her sister, but he's totally broken. He has aspirations to now become a brain surgeon, because the way that this imbecile, I won't even name him, attacked his mother was so bad that I'm pretty sure he shattered, with this screwdriver that he attacked her with, the murderer, he shattered her brainstem. That's how bad the attack was. And still, the courts it's over now, you know, the case is closed. We still have actually no reason as to why he did that. We have no explanation other than, as you've been saying, he was a psychopath. We have become the literal waste bin for asylum seekers in the West. This guy had his application denied in Germany. Italy also didn't take him. So he decides to then come to the United Kingdom, where it's comfy and cozy, and we won't even ask a single question or take biometrics. He said that he was 27 years old. He wasn't, he said he was 19 years old. He was 27 years old.
Yeah, I mean, loads of them are just lying, and I believe this awful murder happened 3 weeks after he arrived in this country on a small boat. He's then put in this asylum seeker hotel in Walsall in the Midlands. Rhiannon worked there behind the reception. She was friendly with many of the migrants. They all loved her. She was just walking home after a shift, day's work, going to the station to go back to her family to see her little boy. And that guy leapt on her and stabbed her 23 times with a screwdriver. She didn't die for 3 days. and he was then seen, he was swigging booze, having the time of his life. He was then seen dancing in ecstasy, having done this. This is the kind of person that we just let into the country, no questions asked. And Donna, in the most powerful statement, when she did her witness statements, which sometimes don't have much effect, to be honest with you, but they make the victims or the relatives of the victims feel better. Donna fixed this man, I'll tell you what his name was for what it's worth, Deng Magic, fixed him in the eyes and said, "Let me see you dancing now." He's just got 29 years. He didn't dance, did he?
He didn't dance, but unfortunately now we're going to have to bear the burden of £1.8 million, which is the approximate cost of how much it's going to take to keep him locked up behind bars. I mean, this guy changed his story so many times all throughout the trial. He didn't admit to anything or didn't say that he had anything to do with it. He's a liar. He actually first said he was fleeing from the Sudan and wanting asylum because he was a child soldier. That story then changed to, I was fleeing my village because I was trying to marry my sister and my parents wouldn't allow me to.
Oh,
and I would like to.
What awful parents.
Just awful parents. And
what
that's
kind of a parent? What kind of a mother and father won't let their son marry their daughter? Come on.
This is the level that we are getting across the channel. I think we should just have a look at what Siobhan Donna said about Keir Starmer and his place in this.
Donna made it clear that she holds Keir Starmer and his government responsible for the appalling murder of her daughter. Listen to this.
They're not stopping the boats, though, Shamara. What they're doing is they're enticing them in. Free NHS, benefit money, free hotels. It's women and children. Where are the women and children?
Does Keir Starmer have blood on his hands?
Yes, he does. I hope he lives with that for the rest of his life. It's not just my child he's taken away. These poor innocent children that are getting raped daily, may I add. These poor women like Rhiannon that are getting murdered. He and all the other people that agree with this, they have those people's blood on their hands.
29 years, is that enough?
Nothing will ever be enough.
Yeah, I see a crime like this, stabbing an innocent woman 23 times with a screwdriver, and then dancing with glee over her dead or her dying body. If that doesn't get a whole life sentence, you know, throw away the key, I don't know what does. You know, what crime would be worse than that? But apparently it didn't warrant a full life sentence, so he's going to do minimum of 29 years. Frankly, if he doesn't make it, who cares? Yes,
well,
shocking.
we also raised the death penalty. I think we've got a clip of that and what Siobhan thinks about the death penalty in this situation.
Yeah, good point. Again, this is Donna.
How do we continue to navigate life without her? Her son, my grandchildren, my children. How do we navigate life without her? And he is taxpayers' money put into a prison.
It's going to cost around £1.8 million.
Yeah.
Would you call for the death penalty for him if we did have something like that?
Yes, I would.
Retribution.
It's not something that I ever believed in, but I know it's evident what he done.
So 2 points there I want you to call in about. First of all, is Donna right to say that Keir Starmer and his government have the blood of her daughter on their hands? And when she calls for the death penalty, having suffered this terrible loss, the loss of her daughter, does she have a point? Do you think maybe for that kind of crime we should bring back the death penalty? We seem to be getting more and more crimes that defy belief, like Axel Rudy Cabana in the Southport dance hall. And, you know, I've always been a bit diffident about the death penalty, but when I hear about what Rudy Cabana did in Southport, when I hear about what this monster did to poor Rhiannon, you know, it's hard not to say, just get rid of these scourges. You know, just get rid of them. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. While you're here, Samara, other stories. As I said in my monologue, look, the revelations about Prince Andrew, we're going to talk to Andrew's biographer fairly soon, Andrew Lowney.
Very good guy.
Continue to be absolutely fascinating. Yeah, Andrew Lowney.
Yeah, Andrew
not
Lowney,
Andrew
not
Mountbatten. Andrew Mountbatten's a very good guy. No, he's not.
Andrew Lowney, one of the best biographers you will want to stay tuned.
Absolutely. His book began the decline and fall of Andrew and Fergie. He got everything on them and they fully deserved it, and we're only now finding out just how horrific they really are. Those two have not got a moral fibre between them, and to hell with them, frankly. But I think what is important, and there will be more revelations, Andrew Lowney isn't in any doubt about that. We'll talk to him in a minute. But I think the most damaging thing from the Epstein files this weekend, as far as this country is concerned, is Peter Mandelson. Now, it turns out that in 2009, when he was business secretary, his live-in partner was receiving regular payments, thousands and thousands of pounds from Epstein to deal with some osteoporosis problem he had or something. Quite why the rather wealthy Mandelson couldn't handle tens of thousands of pounds for that, I don't know. But it obviously calls into question, or begs the question, was our business secretary compromised by his lover or his partner taking money from an American billionaire tycoon, a businessman? We now know that it looks as if he was doing Epstein's beckoning. It looks as if he was trying to change policy on bankers' bonuses because Epstein wanted them changed. It looks as if he pursued several policies that were to the advantage of Epstein directly for Epstein. Then we learned that back in 2004, when he was an MP, just about to become our European trade envoy in 2004, Mandelson himself, according to the files, received $75,000. He says he can't recall that. He says this needs investigating by me. He says, no, Mandy, this needs investigating by the police. We've got to get this guy. If this guy was taking money and then pursuing policies for the person that he was taking money of, Epstein, that is extremely serious.
It's a scandal, really. I mean, it's a massive scandal on the Labour Party, who seem to have pretty much kind of, I'm not accusing them of covering this up, but they've let him go many, many different times. I mean, that man is Icarus. He flew way too close to the sun. He loved the high life. I mean, just looking at those raw emails, it's sort of, please send 13K now, which makes me think, what was going on there? I don't think this was necessarily about the health of his partner. It was kind of, I'm entitled to the Epstein's money, just send it as you go, which makes me think that, yes, something fishy might have been going on there. And I think it's ridiculous when he was given so many opportunities. Keir Starmer knew about a lot of the emails. I mean, in just a couple days ago, we had that news that came out that said he knew quite a bit about Mandelson's situation beforehand. I mean, we knew he was a dodgy character. I just think, why has it had to come to this? I mean, it is similar. It mirrors the Prince Andrew situation, where you think they've been able to get away with this again and again and again, and the more files that come out, the worse it gets.
Yeah, and by the way, the British memo to the British establishment: stop acting like a stuck record. So when Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, when he was Prince Andrew, and they say, oh, it's so we can't get rid of his title, take acts of Parliament, it's too complicated, we can't waste Parliament's time with that sort of thing. And then all of a sudden the King does it overnight, bang, like that. What are we hearing about the prospect of removing the peerage from Peter Mandelson? For surely he does not deserve to be a lord of this realm. What are we hearing? Oh, it would be terribly, terribly complicated. No, it wouldn't. Take it away from him. Come on, let's do the right thing for once, shall we? What do you think?
He actually hasn't faced any consequences for his actions. I mean, he's been able to get away with it kind of scot-free because he was always a homosexual and he didn't have, you know, little girl, like that wasn't an element to him. But he has said Epstein was his best pal.
Yeah.
I mean, we cannot get away from that, and he should be stripped of his peerage.
Yeah, well, I think there are two things. Look, this guy has lied and lied and lied. He's got staggered from one scandal to the next, constantly approved of by Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, now Keir Starmer. They were blind to his obvious faults. He was never fit to hold office in this land. He's corrupt, he's a liar, and what is he doing now? He's lying again, in my view. I don't recall receiving $75,000 from Jeffrey Epstein. Well, maybe that's wrong in the Epstein files, but frankly, I doubt it. This guy lies and lies and lies, and what's he doing now, in my view, again? He's lying again. Should Peter Mandelson get his collar felt? He needs to be talked to. The chances are this guy was taking money and influencing British policy while he was a senior member of Tony Blair and then Gordon Brown's Labour governments. This is serious, folks. Does he deserve to get his collar felt? And can we please kick him out of the House of Lords? Yes, 03444991000. Great stuff from Samara Gill. Thank you very much, Samara. Next up, we'll talk to Andrew Lowney, the biographer, whose brilliant book set the train in motion for Andrew and Fergie and brought them to the pretty past where they reside now, as in rock bottom. That next. Stay tuned.
The countdown is on and the window is about to slam shut. Transfer deadline day is here again and the football world means business. We'll bring you the bargains, the whispers, every deal, every twist. Which superstar signing is about to shake this season to its core? The biggest breaking stories, and we bring them to you.
It's been that kind of bonkers window. An unbelievable window.
This is Transfer Deadline Day. This is talkSPORT.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I put a question out to all of you. Is Donna White, the poor grieving mother of Rhiannon White, the poor lady who was stabbed 23 times with a screwdriver by a migrant up in Walsall? She went on to die. He's just got 29 years. Was Rhiannon White's mother right to A, say that Keir Starmer and his government have blood on their hands, the blood of her daughter on their hands, because of their migrant crisis policies, their hopeless policies, letting more and more of these people in. And is she right? Do you agree with her that now it is time to bring back the death penalty for this kind of crime? I mean, what is the point of keeping that monster alive? What is the point of keeping Axel Rudikabana alive at great expense? Millions of pounds it's going to cost us to keep that monster who killed poor Rhiannon in jail over the next 10, 30 years or so. 03444 991 1000. But this is Mike on Rhiannon White's killer.
I've got to say on the 2 points, I agree with the mother. Starmer and the government are to blame for this. I also agree with her saying the death penalty should be brought back in cases like that. Why are we paying for people that have absolutely no regard for other people's lives?
Well said, Mike. Well, let's go over to one of our best callers. I'll be interested to get his take on this situation. That's Daniel in Epsom. Welcome, Daniel.
Well, all right, Kev.
Yeah, good.
Do you know what it is? I think on issues like this, right, I think the royal family have to get involved somewhere, because a government's first duty is the protection of its citizens.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this government and the last have reneged on that first duty. They will not protect the British people. They refuse to, and they will not protect our borders. Now, that you can't. That is like the number one thing they have to do, and they will not do it. Okay. And I think it's time that, like constitutional things, like stopping elections. Okay. Being able to just cancel elections is very un-British, and it's not the right way. This current government is probably the worst government in recorded history. There are British citizens, it seems like on a daily basis, being murdered, sexually harassed, violence. I've had my phone stolen from my workplace from someone who wasn't British, couldn't speak English. There are a litany of serious and all sorts of crimes going on by people that shouldn't be here, Kevin.
Yeah, but Daniel, look, what have we heard from this government? This horrendous murder up in the Midlands. This poor lady, poor girl, Rhiannon White, 5-year-old son, stabbed to death 23 times by a mad maniac migrant who we knew nothing about. We've heard nothing from the government. The mother, Donna White, is saying the government has blood on its hands. We hear nothing from Starmer about that, and she also calls for a return of the death penalty. But it is this silence from our government when accused by someone like Donna White of having blood on their hands. It drives me nuts. Well, they've got to address this. They're letting in thousands and thousands and thousands of young men of sexually active age that we know nothing about, and some of them are going to be like this maniac who killed poor Rhiannon.
Yeah, they're all from Third World War zones. The British public, the British majority, don't want them here. I don't want any of my money being used to house them, feed them. They should be destitute. They should be aware that the British majority don't want them here. I'm disgusted by it. I've got children of my own. Everyone's talking about human rights and the ECHR. What about the human rights of that poor girl's child?
Exactly right.
Now, without a mother.
Exactly.
And what about the human rights of a mother that's lost her daughter at that age? Why don't this government care about British people? Because they're Fabian society socialists who hate this country. They hate our traditions. They hate our heritage, and they hate us. They hate native British people. And they want to get rid of everything that we like to do. Pubs, farmers, pensioners. They could give us stuff about us. I know. They're all, I'm absolutely sick of this government. I really am. I'm sick of them.
Yeah. Do you remember that terrible murder in Uxbridge to the west of London, and that poor guy taking his dog for a walk? Yet again, another asylum seeker did it. Every time there is a crime that is directly down to the migrant crisis, directly down to some lunatic we let into the country, no questions asked, the government stays silent. It cannot say anything because it knows it is in the wrong here, and it's driving me nuts as well, Daniel. Daniel, really good to talk to you as always. Daniel from Epsom there. Let me know what you think. What the silence of Keir Starmer over what happened to Rhiannon White and her mother's charges that this government has blood on its hands. And what does our government do? Sort of hides in the corner and doesn't say anything. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. They owe us some kind of statement, don't you think? 0344 499 1000. We're still trying to get hold of Andrew Lowney, the royal author, as soon as we can get through to him. We'll get him on the show. So hopefully that, after these messages, stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, some time ago, about a month ago or so ago, I covered this story. A restaurant called Miznon in Notting Hill. It's a Jewish restaurant. It's actually a chain of restaurants. They've got one in Australia. I think they've got one in America. And one in Notting Hill, very nice area of London. They were attacked last month by a baying mob of violent anti-Semites screaming their anti-Semitic chants. The restaurant was attacked, beaten, smashed up. The coppers did nothing. So they have now apologised for failing to protect the Jewish people who worked in that restaurant from a racist mob in Notting Hill. The question is why didn't they do anything? I've seen the footage. They were there. The coppers were there, basically just sort of chatting to these anti-Semites as they attacked the restaurant. What is going on? Let's talk to former government political violence advisor and former Labour MP, Lord Walney. Lord Walney, what do you make of that?
Well, I'm glad that the Metropolitan Police have held up their hand on this occasion and admitted they made a mistake. They did. It was a serious mistake. It's important that the police admit when it gets things wrong, and we all understand that there were some issues that regarding the right to protest and where that pushes up against the right of people not to feel intimidated and to go about their daily lives. Some of those calls can be difficult to make. Now, this wasn't. This was, as you suggest, out and out abusive, and it was clear harassment that was happening. And I think there are now, I'm afraid to say, many examples, a pattern of the way in which police forces across the country can sometimes seem to allow this kind of intimidating practice when people are directing it against, as they will try to disguise it as, against Zionism, when what is actually the case is it's quite simple, old-fashioned Jew hatred. And I think we do need to look at where the way in which this pattern is manifesting itself and challenge it wherever it appears, as I'm really glad that people did against when it's confronting the owners and the customers for this poor restaurant.
Yeah, it's extraordinary that the police have to apologise for not doing their job. Their job should be to protect this restaurant. I've seen the footage. The police were in the area. they just were looking at it. They were just chatting to the people who were attacking the restaurant. This is pro-Palestine policing, it seems to me. And we've seen that all over the country. So I do think we have to really seriously think about the police should not have to be apologising for failing to protect any restaurant, let alone a Jewish restaurant. Very strange. Can I also ask you, Lord Walney, while I've got you, because this is a very a serious democratic issue, I think. Last week I had on my show 2 Muslim activists from Birmingham. They are spearheading an organisation called the Independent Candidates Alliance. They are going to field at the local elections in Birmingham, our second city, more than 60 candidates. They insist they're not all Muslims, but they pretty much will be, obviously. And we know about that city. We know about the West Midlands Police. We know about the extremist Muslims in that community. Of course, not all of them are, but there are definitely some extremist Muslim activists in that area. And they are now going to field more than 60 candidates to fight the local elections. Now, if they win all of that, that strikes me as a kind of Islamic takeover bid. And one of the candidates, of course, is a guy called Shahid Butt, who is a convicted terrorist. More of his lovely worldview emerged in the papers over the weekend. He said that Muslims should never be friends with Jews or Christians, and that jihad slaughter was a compassionate act. This is a man who's going to be put up to be a councillor in Birmingham, along with probably 59, 60 other Muslim candidates for this Independent Candidates Alliance. I think this is a bit worrying, don't you?
This is an example of the sectarian, religious-based politics that is afflicting too many pockets of the United Kingdom, and I really hope that the local voters in Birmingham push back against this and send this kind of thing packing. And I'm afraid this is going to be a litmus test of the degree to which this kind of intolerant worldview that is pushed, I think, you've clearly seen by a number of Islamist activists and organisations within Birmingham, whether it has a significant foothold in the city. That, I mean, the remarks of Mr. Butt, as you read them out, are appalling. They have no place in a modern democracy, and we really have to hope that the people who are going to get the chance, it seems, to have their say, decisively reject him.
Indeed. Now, if I can prevail upon you to have a look at this, I interviewed the 2 ringleaders here on Talk last weekend, so have a quick look at this.
Thanks.
So I absolutely believe the innocence of Shahid Butt. He was in a kangaroo court at the time. Even Amnesty International at the time recognized that this was a sham trial, and these people were being vilified for being British citizens. Because as you know, at the time, there was quite a lot of political conflict with the British, and Shahid Butt, unfortunately, was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and in his naivety, was sucked into something.
Well, that's a guy called Shakil Asfar. He's one of the ringleaders of this Independent Candidates Alliance, and the other one's a guy called Ahmed Yaqub. Now, in that interview that I had with those 2 guys last week, it was Shakil said that he hated Zionists, and that he fully agreed with the banning of Jewish football fans from Aston Villa in November, from Maccabi Tel Aviv, because he thinks that Israeli sports clubs and Israeli sports fans should be banned everywhere, all over the world. These are the kind of people we're dealing with who plan to field more than 60 candidates in the local elections at Birmingham. They, of course, insisted this was no Islamic takeover, but I suspect it's exactly what it is, Lord Walney.
It is to have people being able to express those kind of views openly is a worrying thing in of itself, and it is really important that all of us are prepared to call this out for the kind of intolerance that should have no place in our modern British democracy. I mean, those kind of remarks, and those have been attributed to Shahid, but take an extreme literalist interpretation of the Quran. It is an interpretation which, thankfully, I think the majority of Muslims will not accept, but that people are prepared to go out and proudly espouse those kind of views is completely wrong, and it's up to us to show that there is that we will have no truck with that kind of intolerance. And as far as the I don't like Zionists, this has always been too often a paper thin use of language that tries to disguise an anti-Jewish hatred, anti-Semitism, by using the term Zionist. It is on the rise at the moment, but it is not new. It's been going on for many decades, and we should call that out as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. My line on multiculturalism, places like Handsworth in Birmingham, which are sort of nearly all Muslim, I've got no problem with that at all. I like the idea of a multicultural society, and if you're going to have that, you will have enclaves where a certain type of person lives. People tend to, get attracted to people of similar outlooks, similar religious beliefs. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is I think what people like our friends who run the Independent Candidates Alliance stand for is isolationism. So, they want to create, if you like, almost caliphates within our cities, within our country, that exist away from the rest of the country with no integration. Therein lies the problem. It isn't multiculturalism, it's multiculturalism taken to the extent of isolationism.
Yes, I think you largely put that really well in that there is absolutely a place for all religions within our modern country, but equally we have to be clear that that being British means accepting the liberal democracy, the equality, the tolerance before the law, the way of dealing with each other in a decent way. And it is that minority of people who kick back against that and promote the kind of segregation and divisiveness between Muslim majority communities and elsewhere, who then often are the ones who cry loudest about anti-Muslim prejudice and so-called Islamophobia when you challenge them, when in fact actually this is not about Islam itself. It is about that particular extreme and intolerant interpretation and projecting that as the majority view amongst British Muslims, which I'm absolutely clear it is not.
Yeah, exactly. I better not. Once someone connected closely to the Independent Candidates Alliance was quoted as saying, "I didn't come here to take part, I came here to take over." And that, I think, is what we've got to really worry about. Lord Warney, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. That is Lord Warney, former Labour MP and also former government political violence advisor, on what some people see as the battle for Birmingham, that there's going to be an Islamic takeover bid. More than 60 local wards will be fought by independent candidates who say they're independent, but they will be the members for Gaza, trust me. 03444991000. We've had a lot of technical trouble with Andrew Lowney, the royal biographer, so we're going to get him on by hook or by crook after the break. It may be just down the phone, but either way we're going to talk to Andrew Lowney after these messages, so it's going to be very interesting. Stay tuned.
What on earth were our security services doing? For many, many years, people have known about this. We're meant to have a good liaison with the United States. Didn't anybody bring this to notice? Didn't anybody notice that he was dealing with Russians, Chinese, Israelis? What on earth is going on? What is the point of our Secret Service, I have to ask? If somebody in authority, the head of it, should be asked, what did you know? Who did you tell? And why didn't anybody do anything?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
A couple of years back, I interviewed my next guest about something completely different, and I said, what do you got in the pipeline? He said, oh, I'm writing a book about Andrew and Fergie. I said, what are you going to call it? He said, I think I'll call it Entitled. That book, entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York by Andrew Lowney, has set in motion a train of events that are quite extraordinary. So a warm welcome to the show to the brilliant author Andrew Lowney. Hi, Andrew. So we've got you on the phone. First of all, you were quoted saying last week that in terms of these latest shocking revelations about Andrew and indeed Fergie, you know, pictures of him crawling around all over some woman on the floor, stories of Epstein sorting out a Russian prostitute for him, Fergie offering to marry Epstein, calling him the brother that I never had, and so on and so all of this after Epstein was convicted of paedophile child sex offences. So that seems pretty bad. But you were quoted last week, Andrew, saying that you believe there is more and worse to come. What do you mean by that?
Well, we've only had half of the documents, another 3 million documents that could be released. I've certainly seen, for example, national security issues, Andrew's links with Russian intelligence agency networks dealing with money laundering and with sex trafficking. There are talks of 15-year-old girls being brought to Andrew. And I think there are many more financial irregularities to do with, for example, bribes, $5 million of bribes in Kazakhstan. So I think it's going to get worse. I think what this disclosure has shown is that there's quite obviously women were trafficked for him, that there is a case for the Met to investigate him. And I think a lot of people are now calling for that. And I think there's a great suspicion that there's been a huge cover-up, and Buckingham Palace has known a lot more than they're saying. And I think the big question is to find out what they knew, when they knew it, what they did, and what they are now going to do. Because I think people do feel he needs to be held to account and needs to face justice. And his ex-wife, Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, isn't much better. I mean, between them, this awful couple, I mean, do they have even, you know, a scintilla of moral fibre? I mean, they both seem to be the most amoral people I've ever come across. I'm afraid that's true. I mean, I had talked to a member of staff last week for Andrew, and he doesn't seem to feel he's done anything wrong. He feels he's a victim. He's been penalised. So it is extraordinary. He's shown no remorse for the victims. He's refused to apologise. He's refused to cooperate with victims' lawyers or with any of the law enforcement people. There's no chance he's going to talk to the Senate. I think the only people he's going to talk to is if PC Plod knocks on his front door. Yeah, and PC Plod have already passed over the chance to interview him. This was the allegation that he tried to persuade royal protection detectives to investigate Virginia Giuffre, his accuser, which was not his job to do. It was outside the remit, and that would have been, if he did that, that is a criminal offence. Trying to sort of bribe a serving police officer. They just glossed over that and said, no, we won't be bothering with this. Well, I think you're right, Andrew. I think we, the British public, are sick and tired of the authorities just sort of brushing aside or brushing under the carpet more and more serious charges about this man, Andrew, and indeed his wife. It is time the police got serious about this. I agree. I mean, I think HMRC should be looking at both of them. I've offered to give my material, much of it which of course couldn't be used for legal reasons, to the National Crime Agency. But there's a whole catalogue of things. I do think we also need a parliamentary inquiry into his time as a trade envoy with the former heads of UKTI and ambassadors on oath saying exactly what happened, who he was taking with him. We think it included people like Epstein. And I think we need to see all those files for his time as a trade envoy. What are they covering up? And they would reveal who was traveling with him and what he was doing, because he wasn't necessarily promoting British business. He was promoting his own pals, particularly a man called David Rowland, to whom he fast-tracked a banking license in the Middle East.
And while he was a British trade envoy, this was a job that was sort of found for him at the imploring of his mother. After he ceased being a Navy commander, had nothing to do, so she sort of implored on the government then, oh, can we get him some sort of job? So they made him this international trade envoy, travelling around the world. Now, looking back on this now, he got the nickname during those days as Air Miles Andy, because he was always flying around the world first class at our expense. And when he went to various destinations to do trade envoy work, he invariably said, oh, I don't want to stay at the local embassy, because that would be a lot cheaper for us. He wants to stay at the local five-star hotel because it's got a golf course attached to it, so he can play golf. But more to the point, it is now becoming clear that during this period, Prince Andrew, as he was then, spent inordinate amounts of time with Xi Jinping in China and with the powers that be at the Kremlin, and, as you say, Kazakhstan. The implication, the allegation is that this guy, Prince Andrew's Air Miles Andy, was flying around the world first class at our expense, making deals, underhand deals, to betray the country and line his own pocket.
Yes, I mean, I think this is a national security question now. I mean, there's clearly a lot of compromise on him. He was caught in various honey traps with various women. It's clear that Epstein was a Soviet source. I know that Epstein and Ghislaine were brought together by a Russian agent. And I know MI6 were concerned about him. They were watching some of his associates and him. And they reported this to the palace, and they were told to get lost. So, as I say, I think there are some big questions for Buckingham Palace to answer, as well as the government. Why aren't the government releasing these files on his time as a trade envoy? Because I think that would answer some of the questions. But there's clearly a lot more still to come out. This guy has not fallen as low as he can fall.
And with the benefit of a retrospect and hindsight, Andrew, I think it's now clear that when King Charles was dragged slowly, kicking and screaming towards the point where he took everything away from his brother, you know, his princely title, and everything else, his home and everything else, that the reason he got to that point was purely this, that clearly the royal family, the king, and indeed I guess the British government knew what was going to come out in the Epstein files. They knew some time ago, so they moved to sort of nip it in the bud before the revelations actually came out, and now they are beginning to come out in all their horror.
Well, I think they also did it because wider questions were being asked about royal accountability and privilege, and they didn't want to go there. I mean, we've got the Public Accounts Committee looking at crown leases. People are beginning to talk about the opaqueness of royal finances, and I think that's where they don't want to go. It's better if they can keep the focus on Andrew. But you're absolutely right. They knew about this months ago, and they didn't seem to have prepared any preventative strategy.
Yeah, so when everybody goes, oh, isn't King Charles marvellous? You know, he acted swiftly and abruptly to deal with this terrible problem with his brother. That's not actually true, is it? He actually railed against doing that for as long as possible until it was stressed to the king, look, sooner or later there are going to be revelations spilling out of the Epstein files that are going to make life extremely difficult for the royal family unless you do something now. That's why the king acted. It was self-preservation for the royal brand, wasn't it?
Yes, it is self-preservation, and I think this is possibly could be a lost opportunity. It's an opportunity to make the monarchy fit for purpose for the 21st century, to modernise, to show that they are accountable. I think one of the sad things here is that the vulnerability in British society was shown to be the royal family. That's why the Russians and the Chinese targeted Sarah and Andrew, because they realised that that was the way into the establishment. And because there was absolutely no scrutiny. If the royals have nothing to hide, they should have no worries about being much more open about the way they operate.
And of course, Fergie and Andy were handy targets for our enemies, for this nation's enemies, Russia, China, etc., because they are so incredibly stupid, because neither of them have any judgment. I mean, the idea that this ridiculous, moronic oaf, Prince Andrew, would say to a convicted paedophile, oh, while you're in London, why don't you come for dinner to Buckingham Palace? You know, the Queen will be there, maybe you can bump into her. Fergie, the same, oh, you're like a brother to me, oh yes, come and meet my daughters, after he was convicted of child sex abuse. Their lack of judgment, well, I say lack of judgment, they just haven't got any. They are an incredibly stupid couple who have brought the royal family into disgrace and compromised this entire nation by the look of it.
No, I agree. And I think the thing is, they didn't operate on their own. I mean, there were a whole series of people who enabled them and protected them, I mean, right up to the present day. And that's where this is becoming a big cover-up. It's not just the original scandal, it's how people have tried to suppress it coming out.
Well, Andrew, good to talk to you. Sorry we couldn't get to see your fantastically handsome features, but next time. And once again, congratulations to you on the Book of the Year last year, entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. And boy, oh boy, has that house fallen. Not sure it ever rose, but it's certainly fallen. When we come back, we're going to talk to Lucy Connolly about some of the big stories of the day. So Lucy Connolly next. We're going to have to take a look at all the big yarns that are compelling the nation today. So all of that still to come. We're going to be taking your calls later on as well. 0344 499 1000. You can call or you can leave a WhatsApp voice note. But stick around, there's lots still to come.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is Drive Time with me. Yes, me, Kevin O'Sullivan. I'll be with you until 7 o'clock. In a little while, we're going to talk to the political editor of The Sun, Jack Elsom, who's just got back from China with Never Hear Keir. We'll get Jack's inside story of what went on over in Beijing behind the Iron Curtain, the Red Curtain. And also, I will be taking your calls later on, 03444991000. And Jake Wallace-Simons will join us to talk about this Jewish restaurant that got attacked by a baying anti-Semitic mob, and the police just stood there looking. Also, Encyclopædia Britannica has rewritten the map of the world. So where Israel is, it says Palestine. What's going on? We'll talk about that later. All of that still to come. But first, for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to spend it in the excellent company of political commentator Lucy Connolly. Welcome, Lucy.
Hi, Kev.
Good to see you. Always a pleasure to have you on this show. You're always welcome. Now, let's talk about what I think is the most shocking story of the year, and will continue to be so, frankly. It's the story of Rhiannon White, that poor girl who worked at the Asylum Seeker Hotel in Walsall, the Park Inn Hotel. Who basically one of the migrants living at that hotel followed her and stabbed her 23 times with a screwdriver outside the station. She was about to go home to her family, where her little 5-year-old boy was waiting for her. When that poor kid found out that he would not be seeing his mother again, apparently he let out this kind of primeval anguished scream, a 5-year-old boy. Now, our Samara Gill, I think you know Samara, she sat down with Rhiannon White's mother, Donna, and Donna had this to say.
They're not stopping the boats, though, Samara. What they're doing is they're enticing them in. Free NHS, benefit money, free hotels. It's women and children. Where are the women and children?
Does Keir Starmer have blood on his hands?
Yes, he does. I hope he lives with that for the rest of his life. It's not just my child he's taken away. These poor innocent children that are getting raped daily, may I add. These poor women like Rhiannon that are getting murdered. He and all the other people that agree with this, they have those people's blood on their hands.
29 years, is that enough?
Nothing will ever be enough.
Well, Lucy, you're a mother. You must be able to empathise with poor Donna White, but very powerful words, I think, by her. Keir Starmer and his government have blood on their hands, because in the end, poor Rhiannon, in my view, is the victim of a chaotic migrant crisis that successive governments have done nothing to get to grips with, nothing to tackle, nothing to solve. And these kind of crimes are becoming more and more common. Your thoughts?
Well, we've heard it loads today, haven't we? It won't be the first and it won't be the last. I mean, I've listened to a couple of her interviews today, and honestly, they've made me cry. She's broke my heart today, especially the GB News one, you know, where she says they've been sentenced to a life sentence of grief. That's exactly what it is. And unless you've lost a child, you can never understand. It doesn't get better in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, in 4 years. It's exactly that, a life sentence. And what is it going to take for them to take action? What is it going to take for people to accept that these undocumented, unchecked migrant men are a danger to our women and our children? How many more people have to die? How many more children have to lose their mothers? How many mothers have to lose their children? One is too many, isn't it? Let alone, you know, as we've heard, there are cases going on now where similar things have happened. You know, that poor woman was working there. She was helping these people, and that's the thanks she gets for it.
Yeah, and Donna said something incredible in the witness statement at the end of the trial, when this guy Deng Majek got 29 years for his heinous crime. So it's a witness statement, and Donna, you know, sort of said, you know, you've ruined our lives, you don't just ruin one life, you know, the usual kind of anguished cry from a bereaved mother. But then she went on, you know the story, Lucy, that when this monster killed poor Rhiannon 23 times, then was filmed dancing around her body in a kind of ecstasy, playing music,
Some
right?
kind of honour killing or something.
Yeah, something like that. Well, Donna fixed him in the eyes and said, "Let me see you dancing now," which was a great moment, but it doesn't make up for the terrible loss she has suffered. And you know what annoys me is we get these heinous events, we get these rapes, we get these murders by asylum seekers who've been let into the country, no questions asked, people we don't know anything about. They commit these terrible crimes. Never, ever do you hear a word from this government.
It's disgusting. Why have they not reached out to her? I am in complete agreement with her that they have blood on their hands. For every single person that is killed or injured or maimed by, you know, an illegal immigrant, they have blood on their hands. Why are we not detaining these people? They've broken into the country illegally. They are criminals. They are then going on to commit further crime, and the statistics are there for everyone to see. This isn't a case of, oh, you're racist, you're this, you don't like immigrants. The facts are there. You know, in Rihanna's case, for example, it's black and white, isn't it? We don't need to see any more proof. He did what he did, and then he celebrated it. That's not normal behaviour, like, on any level. My only hope is that, you know, I can tell you from experience that people that harm women and children aren't treated very nicely by their inmates in prison. So I only hope that, you know, he doesn't get an easy ride in prison, because, you know, other men don't tend to like men that harm women and children.
I don't think he will get an easy ride, and if he has a very hard time in prison, you know, good, frankly. I mean, just this policy, though, this ongoing migrant crisis that we've got. You know, I was talking to the people in Crowborough last week, and when they are more and more having imposed on them more and more of these migrants, 540 in the middle of a little town of 22,000 people. And their main complaint, their main protest is no one from the government ever speaks to them. They just do this.
The Home Office just ignores them, don't they? And just buses them in the night.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, this seems to be at the heart of the migrant crisis, that we have a government that doesn't want to talk to the people, doesn't want to negotiate with the people, doesn't want to talk this stuff through. It's just got all these young men that it's got to put somewhere, so you're going to have to put up with it. That seems to be the beginning and the end of the migrant crisis to me.
But this government has been like that from day one, hasn't it? If you think back to the Southport stabbings and the riots that were going on, instead of Keir Starmer taking to the screens and taking, you know, saying to everybody, look, we get why you're so angry. We get this is an atrocity. We're going to work with you and we're going to fix this. He just said, you're all far-right thugs and you're all going to prison. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's the same score with, you know, what got you into trouble. You know, you're a mother who responded to the horror that happened in Southport, and they put you in jail for it. And you know, and now we've got Donna White, Rhiannon White's mother, you know, desperately calling on the government to do something, and them completely not listening to her. So they either, if it's someone like you, they either bang you up in jail because you put something nasty on Twitter, or they don't do anything at all. It's just hopeless, isn't it?
It is, and I would love to believe that they would look at this case and think, oh gosh, you know, we need to step in here. We need to reassure people that, you know, that we won't allow this to happen again. But it's just a joke, isn't it? Because they will. Like she's just told you, no one has ever officially been in contact with her. So the very people that have let this animal that's murdered her daughter in the way that he did into the country won't even face her, won't even go and speak to her and listen to her concerns and listen to what she's got to say. I mean, it's awful, isn't it? You know, these people are elected by us. They work for us. They are supposed to protect us. They're doing none of that.
Yeah, exactly right. Do you, I was talking earlier to a caller who rang in, and we were talking about, you remember that horrible murder to the west of London near Uxbridge of that poor guy, nice guy, taking his dog for a walk at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and an asylum seeker just randomly stabbed him to death. And the whole nation was shocked, was in a state of shock about it. What did we hear from our Prime Minister? What did we hear from our government? I'll tell you what we heard, Lucy. Nothing.
Nothing. Was that Wayne, the guy that are you talking about Wayne, the guy that was walking along and he got stabbed by his dog?
Yeah. I mean, there are charges pending, but when he was stabbed to death, there was not a word from the government, not a word from the Prime Minister, even though the nation was stunned and shocked. This is what I think people are getting fed up with. We are in the grips of a massive crisis, the migrant crisis, the asylum seeker crisis, and this government never speaks to us.
And you know the saddest part of it? Next week, next month, it'll be someone else. So these people will be forgotten about for a while anyway, not by their families, but, you know, this week we're talking about Rihanna. Unfortunately, we're going to be talking about someone else next week, next month. They don't even get the, you know, the deserving, what's the word for it? We move on too quickly, don't we? We go, oh, you know, this atrocity happened. Oh, but there's a new one now, so let's talk about this one. And then I bet their family is sitting there thinking, I guarantee right now their family are thinking, stop the world, you know, they don't want the world to carry on. Their daughter's just died. But meanwhile, everything is moving on, and next week there'll be something else that overshadows the death of their daughter.
That's what worries me, Lucy. I think we have a government that is kind of relying on the news cycle. Oh, this looks very bad for us. Let's not say anything. Let's stick our head in the sand like an ostrich and hope it all blows over. Well, it's not going to blow over because I think we've reached a kind of crisis point. I think the death of Rhiannon in particular, but other horrific crimes are propelling us towards a kind of day of reckoning. They're not going to get away with this for much longer. This crisis is out of control. And just telling us, oh, the good news is we're moving them out of hotels and into military camps. Don't really care. Who cares? Doesn't make any difference. They're still in our midst. What are you doing to stop the boats? Nothing. Let me ask you about this, Lucy, while I've got you. It's a story we've been covering a lot since last week. I spoke to two Muslim activists in Birmingham last week, and they have formed something called the Independent Candidates Alliance. They are going to field more than 60 candidates at the local elections in Birmingham, and these candidates, they say they won't all be Muslim, but let me tell you, all but about one or two will be. You're basically going to get 60 Muslim candidates fielded by an organisation that is frankly run by a couple of fairly extreme Islamic activists. They're all going to be fielded as candidates in Birmingham. This looks to me like an Islamic takeover bid. What do you think?
Well, I don't know whether it's an Islamic takeover as such, but I can completely appreciate why people are worried and why people say, you know, and there's certain parts of the country like Birmingham where it seems to have become like Muslim v everybody else, doesn't it? It's like they've got their own communities and their own things going on, and that they don't want to integrate, and that's very worrying. And I'm not saying that's all Muslims or that's the same across the board, but where you've got demographics like Birmingham, where you've obviously got a high population of Muslims and stuff, it's scary to think that certain areas are populated so highly with one, you know, religion, if you like, and and you can't say that they're not going to try, or that's not going to be infiltrated into the councils, into our way of life, and it's hard to disagree with that, isn't it? You know, when you look at the statistics and you think, gosh, you know, 80% of that council is going to be made up of Muslims, or 80% of that area is made up of Muslims. You can see why people say, you know, we're being wiped out, our cultures are being wiped out, they're being replaced, Sharia law is coming in. Now, I don't necessarily agree with all of that, but what I'm saying is I can see why people would think and say that.
Yeah, there are 85 Sharia law courts in this country. I mean, they're not allowed to...
And why?
It's a good question.
Sharia law has no place in the UK.
exactly right, exactly right. They're not allowed to deliberate on criminal matters, but they deliberate on marital disputes, property disputes. 85 courts across the land, Sharia courts. That is a problem. Before you go, Lucy, to go back to poor Rhiannon White and her brilliant mother, Donna. Donna said that in the light of what happened to her poor daughter, she's in no doubt that she believes in bringing back the death penalty. Where do you stand on that?
I'm torn on the death penalty because I think the problem is with the death penalty is you've got to be 100% sure you've got the right person.
Yeah.
And I know from recently gone through the judiciary and dealt with the police and the courts that they're not always honest, and they don't always, they do fit people up. And I mean, this is quite different, isn't it? Because I think we can be 100% sure that this guy did what he's been accused of. So, do you know what? I can understand why she thinks that they should bring back the death penalty. Why should taxpayers pay for him for 29 years? You can't rehabilitate somebody like that. He's evil. It's just evil, Yeah. Like I said, but what happens if you've then got somebody that's been accused of a crime, is given the death sentence, and they didn't do it? If you go and hang them, you can't get their life back, can you? That's the problem with that.
Yeah, it's always the conundrum and the dilemma. If you're 100% sure, maybe, but are you 100% sure? That is the big question. But you can't blame people like Donna, who,
absolutely not.
for saying let's put these people to death. Lucy, it's great. I really love having you on the show. Come on again next week, eh?
Pleasure to be here.
Always a pleasure. Lucy Connolly there, political commentator. Lucy, I don't have to place her anymore. You know what happened to Lucy. Now, let's go to break, shall we? Let's take a call before we go to break. What have we got? We've got Marcus in Bedford. Hello, Marcus. What would you like to say? Death penalty.
Right, on the death penalty. Well, let's say not good evening, but good twilight, because someone said good morning to you earlier, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, I'm in a sort of state of confusion because I usually do the evening show, and it's a bit drive time starts in the afternoon and ends in the evening, so we're in a world of confusion. But what the death penalty? Where do you stand on it, Marcus?
Death penalty, right? I think there should be 3 safeguards. The first is CCTV, DNA, and actual evidence. And if that, and God bless those poor children in Stockport. It was all caught on CCTV.
Yeah.
And
I think we lost Marcus there. Let's go over to a voice note. This is from Gaz.
I'm so angry. Rhiannon White stabbed to death with a screwdriver by this migrant. If he'd not been in the country, she would still be alive. Labour have got blood on their hands. They've let him in. And the fact that he even said he was a child soldier, they shouldn't have touched him with a barge pole. He shouldn't be anywhere near a civilised nation like ours, or, as it's going, more uncivilised by the day. If I was Rhiannon's poor mother, I would be seeking legal advice and holding the government totally responsible for willful neglect in letting this animal into the country and letting him roam around unchecked, not knowing his motives, his history, what he was capable of. So it's disgusting.
I think a lot of people agree with Gaz there. Of course, this guy, Deng, the murderer of poor Rhiannon White, he said he was a child soldier. He also said he was 19 when he was 27. You can't believe a word he says. He wasn't a child soldier. He's just a chancer trying to get into this country and not quite realising that we take a dim view of people who stab young mums to death 23 times with a screwdriver. 29 years. I'd have chucked the key away, wouldn't you? 03444991000. The fact that that guy's ever got the prospect of even being released, in 50 years or something, is just not right in my view. Don't ever let him out. Listen, when we come back after this upcoming break, we're going to talk to Jack Elson, political editor of The Sun, who was in China last week with Never Hear Keir, get his take on the Prime Minister's trip to Beijing and also what he feels about Peter Mandelson. Peter Mandelson, I think, is in a world of trouble today. Was he taking bribes when he was business secretary, when he was a senior member of the Labour government? According to the Epstein files, that could well be the case. He denies it, but the Epstein files are telling a very sinister story. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Should Rhiannon White's murderer, the guy from Sudan who stabbed her 23 times with a screwdriver and then danced with delight over her dying body, should he get the death penalty? Why are we going to spend nearly £2 million keeping this guy in prison for the rest of his life, or for at least the next 29 years? Is it worth it? 0344 499 1000. And does Keir Starmer and his government, have blood on their hands for the migrant crisis that allowed this monster Deng into the country, no questions asked, put him in a hotel in Walsall 3 weeks after he came across on a small boat? And that's what he did. He stabbed Rhiannon White, a young mum with a 5-year-old son, 23 times with a screwdriver. That poor little boy, when he found out he'd never see his mum again, apparently let out a kind of primeval howl of anguish. A 5-year-old boy deprived of his mum. That's what the migrant crisis did. 03444991000. Here's David on Rhiannon White's murder.
Just going to the migrant crisis and the government's lack of action, it just comes down to, do they care? For me, does Keir Starmer care? Does he want to make enough of a difference? Does he care enough to actually stop the boats? Donald Trump did it because he cares about the US people. He knows what's happening is wrong and he cares, and he's put it into action. Keir Starmer does not care. And for me, that's what it comes down to.
Good message there from David. Yeah, let me know what you think. Rhiannon White, you know, the murderer, should he get the death penalty? Why are we going to spend £2 million keeping him in a nice warm prison for the rest of his days, or at least for the next 29 years? And is it basically Keir Starmer's fault for his hopeless tackling of the migrant crisis? It's just getting worse and worse and worse. We're letting thousands and thousands and thousands of young men of sexually active age from strange foreign countries with different cultures, we're letting them in on a massive basis, and they're not doing anything about it. Donna White, Rhiannon's mother, says Keir Starmer has blood on his hands. Is she right? 0344 499 1000. Mike sends me a message. If I commit a crime, it's on record. The government are complicit, as they should not allow undocumented people to roam freely. It's a dereliction of duty. It is very strange. No questions asked. Young men. You know, we don't know anything about them. We just say, here's 50 quid a week, here's a free hotel, here's free food, here's free doctors, here's free dentists, here's free lawyers to fight your case to stay, here's free driving lessons. Enjoy yourself. Who are you? We don't know. Hey, just enjoy this country. You get out there. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Let's talk to the great Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina.
Hi, good evening, Kevin. Well, I'm absolutely sickened by the murder of this young woman. I mean, Rhiannon's mum was quite right, and I agree with what she said. This man, we should not be keeping him in prison, Kevin. He should have been put to death for what he's done. He has no regard or value for human life. There's no getting away from the fact that Keir Starmer, this government, Tony Blair and Boris Johnson, all have more blood on their hands than a mass murderer because of the floodgates being open to this illegal migration. They've all failed on the first rule of government, Kevin, and sadly none of these imbeciles will ever be brought to account for their actions. This young woman, Rhiannon White, died horrifically at the hands of a crazed migrant maniac, and for crimes so heinous, the death penalty should be brought back. Why should taxpayers, probably including Rhiannon's mum, have to pay to keep these monsters alive when these monsters have no regard for human life? You know, a long time ago when I was a young woman, there was a politician that gave a very famous speech about the rivers of blood. And
Mr.
he
Powell.
was jeered and vilified for doing it, Kevin. Well, in my opinion, he was right, because this is what we're witnessing now. And the blood is everywhere, all over this country. And I think that it's only just started. We have so much more of this to come. Nothing that this government is doing, Kevin, is going to right these wrongs.
Exactly right. Georgina, it looks as if we've imported a crime crisis and a crime epidemic, particularly a sex crime epidemic, and questions need to be asked, serious questions. Georgina, always great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Georgina from London there with another of her great calls. Let's go straight over now to the political editor of The Sun, Jack Elson. Maybe suffering from jet lag. He was in Beijing last week. How was your trip, Jack?
It was very full on, Kevin. Beijing, Shanghai, Tokyo, and then back to London. We actually flew around the entire circumference of the globe. So, yes, I'm a bit jet lagged, but here from Westminster to talk to you and write for Sun readers tomorrow. There,
brilliant, excellent. Good to have you on board, as always, Jack. First of all, I want to ask you about Starmer in just a minute. But the big story today, in my view, and in fact, the big Epstein story of the weekend was not so much Prince Andrew. I mean, how much more shame and disgrace can that guy take? Another day, another revelation, more sordid behaviour on his part. He's already been sorely punished. Maybe he'll get his collar felt, who knows? But I tell you who it seems to me must have his collar felt, must be talked to by the police, is Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, after these shocking revelations over the weekend that in 2009, when he was business secretary, his partner, his lover was accepting thousands of pounds worth of payments from Jeffrey Epstein, an American businessman. Did that compromise our business secretary? And back in 2004, when Mandelson was just segueing from being an MP to being our European trade envoy, he himself, according to the Epstein files, took $75,000 from Jeffrey Epstein. Personally, he's now saying, oh, I don't recall that. Looks as if it might be a bit false. This needs to be, he actually said, this needs to be investigated by me. No, Peter, this needs to be investigated by the police. There is a serious suggestion that this guy was taking money and the policies that he was instigating were being influenced by the cash he was receiving by a very rich American tycoon. This is serious, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, and what you just read out, Kevin, is really the tip of the iceberg because, you know, with each hour that passed, we have more evidence coming out of these Epstein files, which drags Peter Mandelson ever further into it. We've seen that in the dying days of the Labour government, where Peter Mandelson was business secretary, he appears to have tipped off Jeffrey Epstein about a massive 500 billion euro bailout. We have revelations that he gave Jeffrey Epstein highly sensitive information about a sell-off of government assets. More revelations about the fact that he seems to be giving Jeffrey Epstein a lot of information inside government from when he sat at that top table around the cabinet, and all at the same time receiving money from Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we haven't had a response from Peter Mandelson about these latest claims. What we have had in the Commons, is being debated right now in the House of Commons chamber, is a groundswell of calls from across the political divide for Scotland Yard to get involved, because there are accusations now, and like I said, we haven't had Peter Mandelson's reaction, but there are accusations now of criminality in public office. And so that is what I think the government is going to come under pressure to next, because this does impact Starmer, who obviously appointed him as US ambassador, despite knowing, one, his past links with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, but two, his previous scandals involving very rich, powerful people. Let's not forget that twice under the Tony Blair government, Peter Mandelson was forced to resign in some sort of row involving very rich individuals. And so the question now will be whether Starmer or not backs a full police investigation. That is the calls coming tonight from Westminster. Keir Starmer so far saying that he will launch a government review into Peter Mandelson's contact with Jeffrey Epstein while he was in government, saying that he wants him to relinquish his peerages and his titles. But there is a bit of anger tonight that the Prime Minister has stopped short of actually using an Act of Parliament to strip Lord Mandelson of his title as a peer of the realm, something which he could do. Downing Street suggesting that that's too complicated and too timely, and actually they want to change the system. But yeah, bad for Peter Mandelson and increasingly bad for Keir Starmer as well.
Yeah, I mean, questions have to be asked of successive Labour Prime Ministers, Blair, Brown and now Starmer, as to why they let this guy hold very high offices of state. Because if these allegations are true coming out of the Epstein files, this guy Mandelson was never fit to hold a high office of state in this country and should never have been appointed to these jobs. If he was receiving money, as it looks as if he was throughout his tenure as business secretary and before that European trade envoy, senior advisor to Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, if he was receiving money all the time from Epstein, or his partner was, this is serious. This is very serious. And I think the police do need to be brought in. You know, Keir Starmer now saying, he's sort of getting very serious about, Mandelson should leave the Lords and an investigation is required. Well, this is a big mistake Starmer has made. And I'm getting a bit sick of all this stuff. Do you remember when people calling for Prince Andrew to have his prince title taken? Oh, it's too complicated. We can't. Oh, Duke of York, it's too complicated. It's too complicated. We can't do that. And then all of a sudden King Charles does it like that, at a stroke. Now we're hearing it's too complicated to get rid of Peter Mandelson's peerage. Well, I don't really care. I think we should do it, don't you?
This is it. I mean, it's not as if there's going to be any resistance to this whatsoever. You know, politicians of all parties in both the Commons and the Lords are united in their condemnation of Peter Mandelson. And I'm sure that if they decided to sit all night, pass primary legislation, which we know they can do, they did it when they wanted to take British Steel into public ownership. There's clearly a precedent to do this. It doesn't seem there's the political will at this point, and they're hiding behind mechanics. Now, whether they are right in saying that actually they do want an easier way of doing this. The proof will be in the pudding, but they need to get on with it pretty quickly. I think what's interesting in this whole thing, two things. One is the successive blind spots which Labour leaders have had for Peter Mandelson. You know, he's been on in the front and centre of political life for 4 decades, starting from when he was Director of Communications to Neil Kinnock. He then had various scandals along the way with Tony Blair. Gordon Brown brought him back. He then managed to have his sort of third act as US ambassador. Starmer forced to fire him again. But even after he was fired as US ambassador, he sort of tried to make a bit of a more of a comeback once again into public life. He did an interview with Laura Kuenssberg. He's been writing various pieces. He's been sort of getting himself out there. This does seem to be, I think, the final curtain call for Peter Mandelson, and I'm not sure there is any coming back from this now.
Yeah, go away, Mr. Mandelson. You received the memo. Now do what you're told. Disappear forever. Yeah, but interesting going forward to find out exactly what the police do about this and exactly what Keir Starmer will do about it as well. Just very quickly, we're hearing that Angela Rayner's got a £1 million fighting fund to take on Keir Starmer. How did you find his mood last week in China? Does he know he's under threat? And what do you make of these increasing rumours that Ms. Rayner is about to strike?
Well, it's interesting. On the plane on the way out, when the Prime Minister spoke to us, he was very stiff, very rigid, and he looked quite nervous. Clearly, he was anticipating his meeting with the Chinese Premier, Xi Jinping. After that meeting, his sense of it was that it went very well, and he clearly came out with concessions on lifting the sanctions of 4 Tory MPs and 2 peers, which he then trumpeted as a big diplomatic victory. And so after that, he tended to relax a bit more, saw us on the plane afterwards a few other times during the trip, and he seemed a bit more jovial. He's clearly comfortable when he's abroad because he knows that he has massive problems at home. You know, I know it's the biggest Westminster cliche that we write in our
Get away
intros
from it all in sunny China.
Exactly that. You know, he's having fun, striding the world stage, but he's jetting back into a sea of troubles back home. You know, if I had £1 for every time a journalist wrote that metaphor, I'd be a rich man. But it is true in the case of Keir Starmer, because there are constant questions about his leadership. People constantly talking about the May local elections as a flashpoint where someone might move against him if, as expected, the results are dire for the Labour Party. I think what's keeping him in place at the moment is no one really knows the mechanism of which of how they will oust him, because there's not really a clear rival. You know, Wes Streeting is clearly quite popular with the public, but pretty loathed by the grassroots Labour members. Rayner has still got all of this sort of tax drama surrounding her, and also is pretty loathed by the country, even if she's the darling of the left Labour membership. And Andy Burnham clearly has had his route cut off from Parliament
I know what we need to do. We need Donald Trump to kidnap him like he did in Venezuela. One of those situations. And by the way, I keep hearing that Peter Mandelson, an incredibly clever man, very clever man. Let me tell you something about clever men, Jack. They don't get caught. This guy can't even go outside his friend's house for a pee without getting caught. He gets caught every single time. If he's clever, God knows what I am. Jack, good to talk to you as always. Jack Elson, political editor of The Sun. Jake Wallace-Simon's next. Stay tuned.
on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to author and columnist, author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, Jake Wallace-Simons. Welcome, Jake.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, sorry to keep you. Can I ask you about this extraordinary business of the police have issued an apology. The Met Police have issued an apology for failing to protect a Jewish restaurant in Notting Hill from a racist mob. We've got some footage. I covered this story, I think it was a month or so ago. So here they all are attacking this restaurant, Miznon, in Notting Hill, which is it's part of an international chain. They've got a restaurant in Australia, I think, and they've got restaurants in America, but they've got this one in Notting Hill. It's been there a while. These people were pro-Palestine anti-Semites, frankly, physically attacking this restaurant. And if you look at this footage, you can see the police sort of milling amongst them, just chatting to them, not stopping them. And now the Metropolitan Police has apologised for failing to protect this Jewish restaurant from a racist mob in Notting Hill. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Is that we have a police force that has to apologise for not protecting British citizens from violent attackers. These people happen to be Jews. I think it's probably central to the equation. Frankly, more and more, Jake, I think we see a pro-Palestine, anti-Israeli police force here.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, the police seem to be rather dozy when it comes to racist threats and intimidation towards Jews in a way that they aren't with other minorities. I mean, if you can imagine a black church, for example, or a black restaurant, black-owned restaurant, being besieged by BNP skinheads, I think the police would see what's going on, understand it, and wade in with riot helmets and perhaps horses as well. Not sparing any violence needed to quell those protests, because it would be very clear to them that it's racist. Whereas when it comes to a similar mob outside a Jewish-owned restaurant, they just seem to stand around and allow it to happen. This apology, I suppose, is a small step in the right direction, but I'm under no illusion that they're going to up their game anytime soon. People just seem to be desensitised to anti-Semitism. They don't see it as the same as other kinds of racism, and so they're all, constantly willing to look the other way and allow it to pass.
These demonstrators, these protesters, they did a big sort of shout out on social media. Come on, we're all going down a Jewish restaurant tonight in Notting Hill to give them hell, which is what they did. They gathered around, they were shouting, screaming, violent, intimidated slogans from the river to the sea with tannoy loudspeakers right outside the restaurant. Now, I tell you what is tragic about this, Jake, is this. Of course, we've been trying to get someone from the restaurant to come on, one of the members of staff, the manager, the owner. Understandably, they don't want to. They're reluctant to do this. They're terrified in case these people go back and they don't get any protection from the Met Police. That's the source of their fear. This is all wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote an article, I think it was for The Spectator, a couple of years ago now, before October the 7th, which was about Israeli-owned restaurants in London and elsewhere in Britain. Israeli food is very popular. And their chefs are very talented, and it's one of those great exports that Israel has. And yet many of them have chosen to brand themselves Middle Eastern restaurants rather than Israeli restaurants because they're afraid of mob violence, such as we've seen in Notting Hill recently. I mean, that's no way to live. I mean, shame on Britain that we've got a particular nationality that can't be free and protected enough just to admit where they're from. And they've got to hide where they're from because the police aren't keeping them safe. I'm reminded of that Iranian dissident journalist who was stabbed in Wimbledon a few months ago. He wasn't protected in Britain. And you know where he sought refuge? In Israel. That's where he went to be safe. He wasn't safe in Britain.
Look, it says it all. It says it all. Now, recently I did the story of the Open University rewriting biblical history, if you like, by suggesting that Mother Mary was a Palestinian, where of course, you know, she's Jewish, as a matter of fact, if you read the scriptures. But according to the Open University, no, she's ancient Palestinian, which is rubbish. An excellent group called the UK Lawyers for Israel took the Open University to task on this, and in the end the Open University had to say, yeah, sorry, that's totally factually incorrect, so we will change that. Thank you very much. We've got another one of these instances going on. The Encyclopedia Britannica, incredibly, has erased Israel from its map. It's done a special map for children, and where Israel is, they've got a great big, I don't know if they've got a great big graphic saying Palestine. Now, the UK LFI, the UK Lawyers for Israel, have written to Encyclopedia Britannica demanding it makes urgent revisions to this material. But what a strange thing to do. What do you think?
And also, I mean, in that encyclopedia, if you read the accompanying text to that picture, it describes the borders of Israel, Negev the Negev in the south and the Golan in the north, and says this represents Palestine. So it's not like it was a mistake or anything, or printing error. It was done intentionally to erase Israel. I mean, interestingly, the word Palestine is a Roman word. The Romans labelled that region Palestine after they had conquered the Kingdom of Israel. So it was initially designed to erase Israel back 2,000 years ago. And it's been used ever since in that same way. And, you know, the erasure of Jews is something that Jewish people have faced throughout history, physically, of course, with the Holocaust, but also spiritually and in terms of our identity. We saw it with Holocaust Memorial Day being marked without any mention of the identities of the victims, Jews being erased from their own tragedy. And I would just add that the people who are most pro-Palestine, people behind such sort of depravities as erasing Israel, trying to erase Jews and so on, they pose as people who are most concerned about human rights. And yet, on the weekend, we saw a big rally in London for Palestine, allegedly. And who else was it for? It was for the Iranian regime, which has massacred upwards of 30,000 protesters in cold blood. That's where they stand. They're not pro-human rights, they're pro-jihad. Either jihadis explicitly or their Western supporters. That's the anti-Israel camp or movement. That's what they represent. And they're also, of course, against the West and everything that we stand for here in Britain. So anybody who supports them needs to get their head checked.
Jake's fantastic to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your excellent time. Jake Wallace-Simons, their author and columnist. I should tell you what Encyclopedia Britannica said about their rewriting of the world map. This is the executive editor of Encyclopedia Britannica, Theodore Pappas. He said, for over 250 years, Britannica has been recognised for delivering unbiased, accurate and rigorously fact-checked content, supported by our editorial team of subject matter experts. As with all feedback we received, we will review these claims by the UK Lawyers for Israel and make adjustments to our content if needed. It is needed, Theodore, because that's Israel where you put Palestine. That isn't Palestine, that's Israel. So you do need to change it, because what you've done is biased. Let's go to break. Sunsport next.
The countdown is on and the window is about to slam shut. Transfer deadline day is here again and the football world means business. We'll bring you the bargains, the whispers, every deal, every twist. Which superstar signing is about to shake this season to its core? The biggest breaking stories, and we bring them to you.
It's been that kind of bonkers window. An unbelievable window.
This is Transfer Deadline Day. This is talkSPORT.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's do the sport in the company of Sun Sports reporter Jack Rosser. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you very much. How are you doing?
OK, transfer deadline day, but not much happening so far.
No, everyone's favourite day of the season. There seems to be a lot of noise about not a lot at the moment. Crystal Palace is the centre of it, really. Jean-Philippe Mateta, who's been trying to get out all month,
It's
now
collapsing,
turns out.
though. Why is that collapsing?
So he started his AC Milan medical yesterday. They'd agreed a 30 million deal. Milan weren't too happy with the first stage of that medical, did more today, still not happy, pulled out. Now it looks like he's staying. Juventus tried again a little bit, had a little nibble to see if they could get something done. But having made it very clear he wants to go and he wants to get out, it now looks like he's staying and he's injured, so they won't be able to use him.
Well, the moral of that story, folks, if you're going out for a drink tonight, don't go out for a drink with Mateta, because he's not going to be very good company, I'll tell you that. Liverpool signed Jeremy Jacquet.
Yeah, they've beaten Chelsea to him. They've got ahead. Chelsea have been looking at him all month, trying to beef up their options at the back. He's a player that not many people had heard of a couple of weeks ago, but Liverpool have now come in and done a deal for around 50 million, but they're going to send him back to Rennes for the rest of the season. Liverpool have had a lot of problems at the back so far this season. Kanate not been up to it, Van Dijk not been great, but they've got a young one that will hopefully replace one of those from the start of next season.
Manchester City yesterday showing us their particular talent for throwing away leads. They never seem to be able to hang on to a victory, do they? But extraordinary story emerging after that game against Tottenham yesterday. Draw, wasn't it, 2-2. Rodri is facing an FA charge and potential ban after sensationally seeming to accuse the ref of being biased, to being not being neutral and being unfair in his decisions against Man City, saying people don't want us to win.
They're taking it well, aren't they? This not really being able to catch Arsenal. Yeah, it's never a great look. All these people, I think one of his quotes is...
Such a shame.
I think one of the quotes is, I never like to talk about referees, and people that moan about referees always go, I never like to talk about referees, you know, I don't like doing this. And then absolutely love sticking the boot in on referees, because who else are they going to blame? And Rodri he's such a fantastic player. He's carried himself until this point so well, winning the Ballon d'Or. But I think it just shows the cracks that are emerging at City, really, as they come to terms with a title chase of
that they're not involved in. I don't think they're going to
quickly slipping away.
Yeah, maybe Man United will do better than them. That won't
that
go
would certainly
down.
surprise everyone.
I'm not in a good mood about Man United after they beat Fulham just yesterday, so I was furious about that. But I thought they played well, and I thought Fulham played well, so I'm not complaining too much. Now tonight, Black Cats versus Clarets. That is, of course, Sunderland against Burnley. That is on talkSPORT 2 tonight, because talkSPORT 1 will continue to cover the transfer deadline day. But your thoughts about Sunderland Burnley? Who's going to win?
It's hard to know what's going to be less exciting, is it? Sunderland Burnley.
Your thoughts about it?
Day.
Do you care?
Of course we care. It's a Premier League game. You should listen to it on talkSPORT. Sunderland need to pick up, really. I saw them at the start of the season. They were fantastic. I've seen them more recently. They were without Xhaka at West Ham and lost, and they were miles off the team that picked up scalps earlier in the season. So this is a good chance at home to Burnley, who are right down there in the relegation mix, to get things going again.
Yeah, I saw Sunderland earlier when they played Fulham, and they came to Craven Cottage. They certainly proved that point, that they're very good at home but dubious away. And I didn't see much in them at all, but they clearly, once they get behind the home
we've seen them do it. I was at their game at Stamford Bridge earlier this season, where they really tested Chelsea, obviously beat them late on, and you mirror that to what you would have seen at Fulham and what I saw at West Ham last week, and they look a completely different team, especially without Xhaka, who's got this niggling ankle injury. It's a big gap to fill.
Yeah, and Burnley, any hope for them?
I don't think so.
Scott
I think
Parker going to take him down?
I think they're one of those clubs that we're increasingly realising are done for. Wolves are one of them, Burnley another. West Ham have got, I hope they can climb out of it, but they've got a long, long way to go.
Yeah, who are they out getting West Ham? Who else? Notts Forest, are they...
It's a 6-point gap now, so it's getting increasingly harder. They were leading, obviously, at Chelsea on Saturday and threw that away. They beat Sunderland last weekend, and then Brentford go and lose at home to Forest, which gives them a real shot in the arm. And you look at Forest's fixture list at the moment, and it's rather favourable. And West Ham, you look across it and think, I wonder where they're going to get some points from.
And at the other end of the table, do you reckon it's a done deal for Arsenal now?
I think it will be now. I think the only thing that will stop them is their own fan base, really. We've seen Mikel Arteta today coming out and saying we really need to get something done because they've lost Mikel Merino. I don't think they will get anything done. They were offered Sandro Tonali this morning by his camp, seemingly. Newcastle not very happy about that, but no, I think it is clearly Arsenal's to lose now, and they can move into the first final of the season tomorrow as well.
These fans of teams like Arsenal and Man United and Man City all moan, oh yeah, we're only going to come 5th, we might not make the Champions League and all that. You try supporting a team like Fulham. Those fans, the Arsenal fans, Man City fans, Liverpool fans, they're all spoilt brats. They don't know what failure is. We do. We're experts. Jack, great to talk to you. Jack Rosser, the sports reporter for The Sun. When we come back, James Price on the big stories of the day. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Drive Time. I am your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and you got me for the rest of the week on Drive Time. You have been warned every day at 4 p.m, me. So I expect you to join me. I seriously do. In about 20 minutes, we're going to be talking about the Pride of Poplar, Teddy Baldock. You may never have heard of him, but back in the 20s and the 30s, he was our great boxing hero. Came from Poplar in East London. There is a statue of him, an impressive bronze statue in Poplar. At least there was until the weekend. when thieves stole it, and Teddy's heartbroken grandson fears that statue, that lovely statue commemorating a hero of Poplar, the pride of Poplar, will be melted down for its scrap value. Just another crime in the crime-ridden daily routine of crime-ridden London. We will talk to Teddy Baldock's grandson in just a little while. Interesting story he was as well. Now, before we get to that, I'll be taking your calls later on in the hour, of course, as well. 03444991000. But before we get to any of that, let's talk to former government special advisor. I think he was linked to the Tories, or it might have been the Green Party. I'm not sure. James Price. Which one was it, James? Was it the Greens or the Tories? I never know.
Hello, comrade. I mean, sometimes it was tricky to always know the difference entirely, but it was the sound bit.
Yeah, that's right. You were with the sort of the Green Tories. A bit of both then. No, James Price is not one of the world's great left-wingers, which is what I like about him. Let's talk first seriously, James, about Rhiannon White. She is that poor lady, young mother of a 5-year-old boy, who was working at the Park Inn Hotel, an asylum seeker hotel in Walsall. Very friendly, apparently, with all the migrants there. Lovely lady, was walking home after her shift, got to Walsall station, was about to go home to see her family and her little boy. And this guy, Deng Majek, who was staying at the hotel, leapt on her and stabbed her 23 times with a screwdriver, and then was filmed dancing with delight, having done that. Our Samara Gill spoke to Rhiannon White's mother, Donna White, who's clearly heartbroken, but also had some very strong words to say about this government. She talked of the migrant crisis, this spiralling migrant crisis, over which our government clearly has no control whatsoever. And she said, because of my daughter's death, you, Keir Starmer, and your government have blood on your hands. This is Donna.
They're not stopping the boats, though, Samara. What they're doing is they're enticing them in. Free NHS, benefit money, free hotels. It's women and children. Where are the women and children?
Does Keir Starmer have blood on his hands?
Yes, he does. I hope he lives with that for the rest of his life. It's not just my child he's taken away. These poor innocent children that are getting raped daily, may I add. These poor women like Rhiannon that are getting murdered. He and all the other people that agree with this, they have those people's blood on their hands.
29 years, is that enough?
Nothing will ever be enough.
Well, James, Donna also, she finished her witness statement. This is the statement that victims, grieving relatives are allowed to make at the end of cases. And she addressed this monster, Deng Majek. And at the end of it, because of his dancing thing, she looked him in the eye, and this was a really powerful moment. And she said, "You just got 29 years minimum. Let me see you dancing now." But when she says to Keir Starmer, "You've got blood on your hands," it's not just this crime, it is other crimes. There is this increasing fear that with this open border policy of letting in thousands and thousands and thousands of young men from foreign cultures of sexually active age about whom we know nothing, by doing this we are importing a crime epidemic, maybe a sex crime epidemic. Keir Starmer hasn't said anything about this. He never says anything about cases like this, but he needs to listen to what Donna White said, if you ask me. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. It's just so awful to have to hear these details of this case again and all the other cases that are happening, and knowing that more will happen as well, that there are more people in the United Kingdom today who will suffer these appalling, violent, brutal deaths, attacks, all the rest of it, that are totally and utterly avoidable if we were to be honest with ourselves about why they happen, how they happen, when they're going to happen, and where they're going to happen. But we won't do that because people of the left will try and obfuscate. They'll try and say, well, you know, white people commit crimes too, native Brits commit crimes too, there's crime everywhere, it's always going to happen, and the same old kind of distraction tactics that happen time and time again. And while the people keep saying that, we're not able to get to the bottom of this, and more perfectly innocent, wonderful people will be brutally murdered, because that's what happens when you let people from very, very different cultures into a country like Britain that is not prepared for them, where the people are not kitted out to know how to defend themselves, and where the penalties are not harsh enough to prevent it from happening. I'm talking to you right now, Kev, from the United Arab Emirates. Not a perfect country, but it's Dubai right now, I think, is the second or third safest city in the world, according to various reasonably reputable crime statistics. And what is one of the main reasons for that? If you commit a crime, you will be treated incredibly harshly. And everybody knows it, and therefore people don't go around, by and large, committing crimes. El Salvador was the most dangerous place in the world. You look at the murder statistics, it was extraordinary there. Someone comes in and says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock up all the criminals. I'm going to lock up all the gang members. You commit a violent crime, you're going into prison, and you're never coming out again. What's happened? It's now the safest place in the Western Hemisphere. Ditto Singapore. There are examples around the world that we can look at, and we don't have to go quite as far as all of them in some cases, but we can see that crime is, to some extent at least, a choice, as is letting people in, exactly as you say, people about whom we know nothing, from completely alien cultures, who in some cases, as the poor grieving mother there has said, have been enticed in, not just with the promise of free NHS care and mobile phones and all the rest of it, but in some cases I've been told that they are being shown videos of girls, young women, on nights out, not wearing a huge amount, as is their right, to go clubbing, and saying, pay me, the smuggler, we'll get you into England, and then you can get your hands on all of this. And they're being enticed in like this. And yet we're still letting people come in to the point that they're now, what is it, we've done the maths recently together, more than twice as many people have come over on small boats since this started in 2018 than there are regular members of the British Army, more than twice as many. It has to stop.
It really does. By the way, you talk about the United Arab Emirates. They're one of 5 countries in the Middle East, Muslim countries, who've banned the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organisation. We're talking about Egypt, we're talking about Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Jordan and the UAE, where you are now. They've banned the Muslim Brotherhood because they say they're terrorists. They're extreme Islamic extremists, and we're banning them. They're forbidden in this country. These are very serious Muslim countries. Britain, in fact, the only country in the West that has banned them in Western Europe is Austria. Britain hasn't, France hasn't, Germany hasn't. We are mad. We allow these extremists to prosper in our countries, where countries like the UAE, where you are, they see the threat and they ban them.
Yeah, absolutely right. Look, there are charities, so-called charities, legal charities anyway, that advertise on, for example, the London Underground network. You can see them when you go through certain stations on the barriers. You see them on the sides of buses and things like that. Those charities alone are banned here in the UAE. I'm not being paid to say any of this kind of stuff, by the way. I'm just here on a work trip. But they're banned because the Emiratis understand how clever the Brotherhood is at inveigling its way into polite society, and they have one very specific goal, and it's not to be charitable, it's not to spread love and cuddles and all the rest of it. It is to advance a very nasty, austere political form of Islam over everybody else. You come to the UAE again, this is not a paid hospitality bit by me, but I went to something called the Abrahamic family house today, where on one site there is a mosque and a synagogue and a church, all in one place. You can go and worship at any one of them, and it's perfectly safe. Yeah, there's still some extra security security there, I've noticed, than you get in the rest of the place. But you can go there and you can worship whatever kind of version of God that you like there, and then you can go home again perfectly safe. And you do that in part because the Emiratis take seriously the threat of groups like the Muslim Brotherhood that we do not do in the UK, and we don't do in America, by the way, although it looks like Trump is starting to ban some of them. The French belatedly, I think, coming around to some of this. Other countries are getting there as well. If we want to be serious about keeping people safe, it's not just the madmen coming over on small boats and stabbing innocent young girls with screwdrivers. It's those who are organising to destroy our civilization and our way of life.
Well said, James. Let's talk about Peter Mandelson. Now, we have had another shocking weekend of revelations from the Epstein files. 3 million more documents and photographs released. We've seen the unsavoury pictures of the former Prince Andrew on all floors, all over some poor, long-suffering woman, young woman. We've heard about his dates with the Russian prostitutes arranged by Epstein. We've heard about Fergie's craven courting of this convicted paedophile billionaire Epstein, and so on and so forth. These are all shocking revelations. I think they cause huge problems for the royal family. There is even talk now, amid fears that these revelations about Andrew are going to get worse and worse and worse. I'm told we've only seen the tip of the iceberg, that this guy could have put a cloud over the future of the royal family. So heinous have been his crimes over the years. But I think more seriously, what we learned over the weekend, this is what is more crucially serious right now, is that back in the noughties, the then European Trade Envoy, MP, very senior advisor to Tony Blair, the then Prime Minister, and went on to become European Trade Envoy, was at that time, according to the Epstein files, did receive $75,000 from his best pal, Jeffrey Epstein. Later, 2009, when he was business secretary, his partner, his lover, received thousands and thousands of pounds from Jeffrey Epstein, begged for and wired across the Atlantic for some kind of osteoarthritis problem that he wanted treating. Why the rather rich Peter Mandelson couldn't help with that, that remains a mystery. But what we have to say here is that we know that he was sending Epstein secret material about what the government was up to. We know that he tried to change policy on bankers' bonuses in the city because Epstein wanted those policies changed. He was sending Epstein confidential information about government activity. Was he compromised by these payments? Was he effectively taking bribes? I'm just asking these questions, but for God's sake, the police need to sit down with Mandelson right now. This is very, very serious, don't you think?
I completely think this is really serious. I normally tell people when they ask about politics, I think most people at home have got a really dim view of politicians. They assume they've all got their hands in the till and their snouts in the trough and whatever other metaphors you want to use. And I have to say to people, actually, most of the time it's not. It's just, there is not a lot of corruption in British politics. There really, really isn't. Politicians get paid a really rubbish amount. Perhaps we should pay them a bit more so they stop doing some of this stuff. But they don't get paid very much. There are so many firewalls between elected politicians and businesses and all the rest of it that the civil service get in the way of, sometimes maybe for good reason and others not, that there isn't often very much corruption. And yet the Dark Prince himself has managed to get around all of those blocks. It's almost impressive with how utterly disgraceful this guy has been. Let's remember that he got sacked once in the first Blair administration. What for? For taking a loan from a fellow member of the cabinet and not disclosing it. He got sacked again for what? Leaning on the Home Office and getting passports done for a rich, was it a Labour donor?
There was the Hinduja brothers, the very rich Indian.
Oh, yes. I wonder why he
tycoons.
wanted to help the very rich person out. I wonder.
Yeah.
And then you read some of these emails that are starting to come out now, giving hints away that there's going to be a Euro bailout, giving hints that Brown might be selling off various assets and telling Epstein what they're going to be TV and all the rest of it, telling him minute negotiations of the coalition agreement in 2010, when Mandelson was sort of leading on those negotiations for Labour with Nick Clegg. So many of these things going on and on and on, and yet Starmer still decided to appoint him to be our man in Washington. Absolutely extraordinary. And as I'm speaking, for those who are just watching on the radio, viewers can see that awful picture of Mandelson wearing a very, very tight pair of underpants and no trousers. It's quite extraordinary, this stuff. And look, Kev, the bit that gets me, we've talked about this Epstein story a few times, but you can't really talk about the wider issue other than the sort of lurid details, whether it's Mandelson or Prince Andrew or any of these horrible things, without getting into the broader bit, without sounding like a kind of nutty conspiracy theorist. They talk about going for slices of pizza, multiple people in these emails, and some people will remember 10 years ago supposedly, hopefully, debunked conspiracy theory that called Pizzagate. And you think, well, if that was debunked, why do you see all these emails, people saying, can I come over for a slice of pizza, Jeffrey? Jeffrey, will you get me more slices of pizza?
Oh,
and
yeah.
so what on earth are they talking about?
Well, gee, I wonder. But Mandelson, you know, if he was taking money and this money was influencing the decisions he was making, if it was influencing British policy, this is a major, major crime. And the police have got to investigate. This is extremely serious. And I keep hearing, oh, Mandelson's so clever, very clever man, very clever man. Clever men, clever people don't get caught. This guy can't even go for a pee in the street without getting caught, which is exactly what happened to him about a month ago. He took a leak outside one of his George Osborne's house, I think it was, because he was waiting for an Uber, got caught on camera. He gets caught every time. This guy's not clever. He's like a sort of clown. He's a sort of fool guy, isn't he?
It's a bit like a kind of Bond villain, sort of giving away all of his mad secrets. But at this point, he hasn't even got Bond caught with a laser beam pointed at him or anything. It is just extraordinary. And the bit that gets me, you mentioned that he was outside George Osborne's house recently, and the way that Mandelson has managed to inveigle with politicians of all parties, both sides of the Atlantic, and you see all the different people who've rocked up in these files. Now, again, not everybody who's mentioned in them obviously is closely associated. If Epstein was emailed by someone saying, God, Kevin, James Price were talking some good sense the other day, we would appear in there.
That'll be the day.
Obviously, actually up to no good. But the number of people, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, it was Stephen Hawking. Did I see that? Was that even a real picture?
Yeah.
And you see, in the age where AI images can generate these made-up pictures, again, you sound like a crazy person when I say, oh yeah, Bill Clinton was photographed in a hot tub. It must be made up, but it's not. It is extraordinary how many of these people didn't realize that this guy was such an obvious evil wrong-un. And I'll finish with this one, that there is, he clearly, Epstein, in one of the emails I've seen, he realizes that email is not a particularly secure method of communication. So someone says to him, I ask him a question, he says, not for email, I'll tell you in person. So he's aware of the risk of emails getting out, and yet seems to think that it's totally fine to talk about all the child fiddling and all the rest of it. So what is it he's not putting in the emails? And you can't, again, speak about this stuff without sounding like a crazy person. What is going on? How many people knew about this? Why was this guy so well connected? Where did the money come from? We still don't really know those answers.
Two things need to happen to Mandelson. A, he needs to have his collar felt. The police have got to talk to him very seriously. And B, he needs to lose his peerage. I'm sick to death of it. Oh, it's so complicated to get rid of peerages. No, we demand it. Do it. Do it for once. Just like the King kept saying, it's very, very difficult to take away the Prince title for Prince Andrew. It's very difficult to take the Duke of York title away. It's very complicated. And then all of a sudden, overnight, he suddenly does it. We always get told that it's very difficult to take these privileges away from people who've disgraced themselves because they're part of the establishment. And then suddenly, it's not very difficult. So I say, take the peerage away. The police have got to talk to him. And we've got to ask questions of Tony Blair, Gordon Brown and now Keir Starmer, three prime ministers who clearly did not see what was absolutely obvious now, that this guy Mandelson was never fit to hold the highest offices of state. That is a disgrace and it needs to be looked into. James, excellent to talk to you as always. Thank you so much. James Price, their former government special advisor over there in Dubai. Let me know what you think about some of the things he was saying. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break and we'll talk about that statue in Poplar when we come back.
What on earth were our security services doing? For many, many years, people have known about this. We're meant to have a good liaison with the United States. Didn't anybody bring this to notice? Didn't anybody notice that he was dealing with Russians, Chinese, Israelis? What on earth is going on? What is the point of our Secret Service, I have to ask, if somebody in authority, the head of it, should be asked, what did you know, who did you tell, and why didn't anybody do anything?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. The pride of Poplar, Teddy Baldock, was born in Poplar in East London, just across the way from here. He was an English professional bantam feather lightweight boxer in the 1920s and 30s. He remains our youngest ever world champion after defeating the American Archie Bell for the then vacant bantamweight title. That was on the 5th of May 1927 at the Royal Albert Hall. He was only 19 at the time. No, in other words, a genuine sporting hero, homegrown here in London, East Ender. We love that. His loving grandson, Martin Sachs, had a statue of this great man commissioned, and it was unveiled in 2014. There it is, in the heart of good old Poplar. Look at that. That's a good statue, isn't it? So often these statues of sporting celebrities are just awful. That is a good statue that I would suggest does Terry Baldock proud. However, over the weekend, this happened. Some toe rags stole this statue. They just stole it. And look, there it is. That's all that's left. Another day in the life of crime-ridden London. Martin fears that it's just been stolen and will be sold for scrap value. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. Let's talk to Martin Sachs now. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Kevin.
You must be devastated about what's happened here.
Yeah, I'm devastated and very angry.
This happened over the weekend, presumably at the dead of night, but you fought long and hard to get this statue built, didn't you? Constructed and erected and commissioned back in 2014. Did you sort of feel... I must admit, you know, I like sporting heroes. I particularly like homegrown sporting heroes, and it sounded like Teddy was a classic homegrown British hero, young Cockney lad, 19 years old, fought his way to the top. Great story. You feared that story might be lost to history, so you went to the effort of getting this statue together. Tell us a little bit about your granddad.
Well, my granddad came from Poplar. He turned professional, which I know this will be quite unbelievable, but he turned 14.
14.
By the age of 17, he was already at the Albert Hall, and at 18, he travelled out to America, where he fought 12 contests in 3 months, winning 11 and drawing 1. 2 of those contests were at the Madison Square Gardens, and then he came. He was offered a 3-fight deal. If he won the first 2 fights, then he'd be offered the then vacant title against Archie Bell at the Albert Hall, which he went on to win.
Amazing. And did you know your granddad? Was he still around when you were around?
No, he died in 1971, so I was 2 years old when he died. But at that time, he'd fallen on hard times. You know, all he'd ever known was boxing. From the sport fairly early. He had nothing to, and he ended up gambling, drinking. He had businesses during the war, but they were bombed, so he only got a bit of money back from the War Commission. So when all he knew was boxing, and all his savings had gone, you know, he that many sportsmen of that era did.
Yeah.
So I never met him. He was estranged from other. But when I was about 14, my grandmother died, and back with a scrapbook of his ventures in America, and being into boxing myself, you know, to find out that your grandfather was the world champion was quite something.
I'm just having a look at his record. So 81 fights, he won 73, drew 3, and lost 5. That's a pretty good record.
Only ever got stopped once as well. You know.
What kind of fighting style did he have?
I think it was a traditional fighting style. However, for a bantamweight, you'll note that he did have quite a number of knockouts.
And have you seen? Have you ever? Is he on film? Have you seen him fight?
Do you know there's 3 different footages of him fighting, and I thought they're the ones that he lost. I mean, the prominent one on you can find on the internet is Al Brown, who was an amazing bantamweight champion. But other footage is his wedding when he got married in 1931.
Yeah.
4 different companies covered the event, which that was something in itself. Thousands of people lined the streets. There were police separating the crowds. You know, it's quite something to...
So he was a superstar then. So he's a sort of Anthony Joshua of his time, that kind of level.
Without a doubt, yes.
That's interesting. It's interesting the way that somebody could be so famous and then fade away into the mists of history, because I must admit, shame on me, but I'm quite interested in boxing, but I'd never heard of Teddy Baldock, and I clearly should have done. Is that why you decided to get this statue together?
Well, the thing that I did was, over my career actually in the Royal Marines, travel up to the Colindale newspaper library and research my grandfather's history. And in 2008, I co-wrote a book with the All Belton. So we published a book in 2008, Teddy Baldock, The Pride of Poplar. And then later on, I kind of thought that, you know, his warranted a statue, and where else better to have it than, you know,
his hometown.
I went to school.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, I don't know if you'd know this, but What is it actually made out of? That is it bronze? Is that what the statue's made of?
Yeah, it's a statue sat on a Portland stone plinth.
So if you melted that down, I mean, would that be worth all that much money? Do you know how much it'd be worth?
Do you know? No idea how much it would be worth, but I should imagine, like any stolen goods, you know, you're never going to get the scrap value for it. And if you're dealing with some dodgy scrap dealer, he's really going to offer you a great deal because he's obviously handling, you know, the stolen goods.
So what they've done is they've stolen your family's legacy. They've stolen part of the legacy of Poplar, just to melt it down for a few quid. That won't be that much money. That's really depressing, isn't it?
It's heartbreaking, really. You know, I haven't told my mother; she's still alive. But you know, 90 years old now, and if she found out, you know, what had happened to the statue, she'd be.
Well, that's a shame. Well, what's your message to whoever it was that stole the statue of your granddad, Martin?
I mean, you could give a message, but the sort of people.
By the way,
that,
it's a family show, so but I mean, yeah, go on.
You know, you've got to look at their moral compass. You know, so any message that I've got for them, they're not going to care because they wouldn't have done it in the place. You know, all I hope is that by getting it out on the media, like we're doing, it will make it too difficult to handle. You know, people look at it and they'll think, you know, if I can recover it, it can be remounted and it can be repaired. But obviously, it gets smelted. That's it. It's gone. And tragically, Carl Payne, he died a few years ago.
The sculptor. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame.
At an early age.
Well, it's you know what I liked about it? I mean, you see so many of these sporting statues and they're absolutely terrible. But that is a good-looking statue that I think does your granddad proud. Let me put out a message. If there are any scrap metal dealers, the kind of people who might be sold this statue to melt down for its scrap value, do the decent thing and call the police so that Martin can get his granddad back and put it back on the plinth. Please do that. So you never know, Martin. Listen, Martin, well, thank you for two things, coming on and also for acquainting us with Teddy Baldock's amazing story, and we hope you get your statue back. Martin Sachs there, you know, grieving the theft of the statue of his granddad, who was a boxing hero back in the 20s and 30s, Teddy Baldock, the pride of Poplar. It's a story of our times, isn't it? It's just a mindless, almost pointless little crime. It's going to make a few quid. And for that, Martin's family get heartbroken. Poplar loses a great statue to one of its famous sons, and somebody makes 10 quid from the local scrap merchant, or however much melted brass or bronze costs. Crime in London. Will the police investigate? What are they doing? Not much, I'll bet. Let me know what you think about that. 03444 991 when we come back, John Lucas, night news editor at The Sun, will be letting us know what is in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper tomorrow. That next, The Sun Look Ahead. Stay tuned.
the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's find out what's in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper, The Sun, tomorrow in the excellent company of Night News editor John Lucas. Welcome, John.
Hello.
Now, first up, you're going to be covering the story of Suffolk Strangler Steve Wright. We remember that. So, is it a quarter of a century ago? Remember, night after night, another... well, girl of the night, usually a prostitute, was found in a ditch somewhere. All these haunting pictures of more and more police search sites. It was likened to maybe even Jack the Ripper or the Yorkshire Ripper, the attacking of sort of sex for sale ladies. That's what that was likened to. Steve Wright eventually went to jail for the murder of a great many of these poor girls, poor ladies. Now, John, he's been in court charged with another murder, this one of 17-year-old Victoria Hall, his sixth known victim. At first he denied it, but he suddenly changed his plea and has admitted that killing.
That's it, that's right. So, awful, terrible man, and we were gearing up this morning for a 6-week trial into this killing of Victoria Hall. The jury would have actually been told, there was a lot of legal argument beforehand, which we obviously weren't able to report.
Yeah.
The jury would have actually been told about Steve Wright's killing spree back in 2006. In the lead up to this trial, we haven't been able to call him the Suffolk Strangler, so that we didn't prejudice this case. However, this morning started getting whispers around the court that he was going to change his plea and go guilty, which he has done, and it's the first time that he's ever actually admitted carrying out a murder, and he's going to be sentenced on Friday. Now, it was a big surprise because we know he went not guilty before on these other cases. Now he's gone guilty on this one. Are there potentially other cases that he may actually cough to if he's having a change of heart? We know. I mean, just say a little bit about Victoria. Obviously, she was a 17-year-old girl. She was quite different to some of the other victims that he's had. She was going out for a night.
Oh, right, because they were sort of hardened girls.
Yeah, well, at the point he got caught, he'd gone on this sort of 6-week rampage around the red light district of Ipswich. But he may have been, and he was 40 already by that point. So, no, so he was 46 by that point. So he, she'd been abducted, found several days later in a ditch near Suffolk. Beyond that, there are lots and lots of other cases that go back 20 years that fit Steve Wright's MO. They fit the geography. I mean, he was a steward on the QE2.
That's right.
At the same time,
and then he became a truck driver.
Well, yeah, and Susie Lamplugh, if you remember that case, had worked on there. Now, there are other suspects in that case, but if you look in the paper tomorrow, you'll see we've gone back through, half a dozen other cases in which, perhaps he could hold the key to what happened there.
So he could be sitting on some sinister secrets. That's an extraordinary story. How many more victims of the Suffolk Strangler potentially were they? That's in The Sun tomorrow. Also in The Sun is the extraordinary strike by the world's greatest footballer, Cristiano Ronaldo. Maybe not the world's greatest anymore, but certainly the world's highest paid. He is complaining about his club, Al Nassr, because they're not spending enough money on the transfer market. They're just not going out there and buying players. He said, so he's gone on strike. I'm not going to play unless you buy some more players. Now, I wonder, John, why they might not have that much money to spend on the transfer market. Could it be that they're paying Cristiano Ronaldo £488,000 every single day?
It's weird. It's completely baffling. He is very frustrated. So the way it works in Saudi, I'm going to say I'm not a big follower of Saudi football.
Who is?
I don't really get it. But the 4 biggest clubs are actually all funded by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. So they're all taking money from the same pot. And Ronaldo, as you say, he's on nearly £500,000 a day.
A day.
His club doesn't want to spend the big bucks on the top stars, and he is trying to block through this, he's trying to block Karim Benzema from signing for one of the rival clubs that are all funded by this investment fund. And he's expected not to play tonight. They've got a big clash in Riyadh. He's not going to play. And as you say, he probably is, without doubt. I mean, he's a billionaire, I think.
He is a billionaire, football's first billionaire, yeah.
And he's on 200 million quid a year. But yeah, he's you know, no one's going to say he's not pretty good, Ronaldo. But yeah, he doesn't seem to get.
I don't know when his contract ends, but I think Al Nassr might start to think, you know what, this guy's 41 years old. Do we need him that much longer? It is incredible. He's 41. He is still a fantastic player because he's kept himself in such great shape. But 488 grand every single day is pretty ridiculous, and no wonder his club doesn't have any money to buy other players, but he's on strike because of that. Incredible. Final story, John. A false leg economy. Explain. You could do this.
This is a chap called Alex Young, another footballer, unfortunately not in the same league as Ronaldo. He'd had a horrible ankle injury about 25 years ago playing football, and he's played him all his life.
Right.
Long story short, he had an infection. He had to have his lower limb removed in an operation last year, literally to save his life. Now, he got a prosthetic leg on the NHS, but he wanted to get one of those running blades, a bit of a Pistorius running blade. And it would have cost him £35,000. It's the only way he could get it.
Right.
Was to he couldn't get it on the NHS.
Right.
35 grand. He said, I'm not going to pay that. He's gone on Amazon and he's got all the component parts.
Yeah.
For 100 quid.
Yeah.
And he's built it himself.
Make it himself.
The only bit he couldn't do himself was the sort of fixture. He had to get a pro to do it. But
he's done it for a lot less than 35,000.
Fair play to him. He was an engineer, so he's got the skills to do it. But the point is, he wants to run a 5K to raise money for the hospital that saved his life, took care of him, and now that he's got this leg fitted, he's training. He's up to 800 metres at the moment, but he's going to keep pushing on. And yeah, it sounds like a great guy. He's got a fun TikTok channel where he's posting.
Amazing guy, amazing. Alex Young, 46 years old, built his own prosthetic leg. Now it's been made for him professionally. Maybe he can go into business with that. In the meantime, he's going to raise money for the NHS, so we should all get behind that guy. And great work, Alex, great work. And you, John, thank you very much. John Lucas there, Sunlight News editor. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Emmys, all those showbiz lovies signalling their virtue last night, polishing their anti-Trump halos. Oh, ICE, they're terrible. F ICE, get out of the country. When are these showbiz creeps ever going to learn? Nobody cares what they think. They've been doing this for years. You remember Marlon Brando sending on the Native American squaw to moan about Native American rights in America. Richard Gere going on about Buddhists and so on and so forth. When are these people ever going to learn that nobody cares what they say at the pulpit? Nobody cares about their political opinions. They might like their movies or their little pop ditties, but as for their political opinions, by all means express them, but as far as we're concerned, you can stick them where the sun don't shine. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
What on earth were our security services doing? For many, many years, people have known about this. We're meant to have a good liaison with the United States. Didn't anybody bring this to notice? Didn't anybody notice that he was dealing with Russians, Chinese, Israelis? What on earth is going on? What is the point of our Secret Service, I have to ask, if somebody in authority, the head of it, should be asked, what did you know, who did you tell, and why didn't anybody do anything?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Alex Phillips will be in straight after the 7 o'clock news to take you through till 10 p.m. with the political asylum. So she'll be in a little while to tell us what she's got lined up for your delectation during those 3 thrilling hours. But before we get to our next story, let's get a quick voice note on WhatsApp from Tristan. He wants to talk about the migrant crisis. Take it away, Tristan.
This absolutely horrid crime. I mean, it's an inhumane, unhuman crime. Stabbing someone in the head with a screwdriver. I mean, I can't comprehend it. But the thing is, the government are not, and really not thinking. And the more and more they keep ignoring these crimes that happen, eventually, I think you might actually find in a situation where we might have vigilantes on the streets. You've already got people protecting where these migrant hotels are, and I really do think you could be in a situation where we could have vigilantes on the streets because people are just getting absolutely sick of it. And the thing is, Keir Starmer just got his fingers in his ears. He does absolutely nothing. The Home Secretary, absolutely nothing. No matter what they do, they just do nothing, and it just seems nothing is going to change. And that's where I think we're going.
I think Tristan's got a really good point. I think we're coming up to some kind of reckoning about this. The public have had enough. They want something done about this migrant crisis, and we've got a government doing nothing, and people are dying, women are getting raped, children are getting attacked, and we've got a government doing nothing. 03444991000. Let's now talk about the Emmys. It was the Emmy Awards where all those people who sing pop ditties come together to give each other great big glittering trophies and tell each other how wonderful they are. Last night we had people like Billie Eilish and Trevor Noah all polishing their anti-Trump halos, banging on about, oh, you know, get off ICE, get them out, you know, freedom, the American dream, all this kind of stuff. When will they ever learn nobody cares about their political opinions? Let's remind us a few years back what Ricky Gervais brilliantly told the gathered, collected celebrities at the Golden Globes Awards.
Apple roared into the TV game with a morning show, a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. So, well, you say you're woke, but the companies you work for, I mean, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you? So, if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and
he spoke for all of us there, didn't he? But they never get the message, do they? Let's talk to the assistant showbiz editor at The Sun, Amanda Devlin. Hi, Amanda.
Hey, Kev.
Now, yeah, let's have a little... we've got a montage here of all the celebrity hatred, the left-wing nonsense from people like Billie Eilish and Trevor Noah, all talking about ICE and, you know, oh, Donald Trump's dreadful and all that. Why don't these people ever realise that nobody cares what they think? I'm not against them standing up and spewing their naive sixth form activist claptrap if they want to. It's a free country. America's a free country. What I object to is their expectation that we give a damn what they think. They're dancers, they're singers, they're little actors. They pretend to be other people. Doesn't give them a right to expect their political opinions to be taken seriously, does it?
Totally. I mean, I knew that you'd be raging about this. As usual, every single award ceremony that we see, it's the same old trope, isn't it? That's just put out on a stage, and we all have to be forced to listen to it. I think Donald Trump said it best when it said it was virtually, impossible to actually watch. It was unwatchable because. It should be at the time when you've got a room full of the biggest stars in the world, who are the most talented musicians and singers. And yeah, it all comes down to politics, and you just get lectured as you're watching.
Yeah, these are some of the speeches that went down last night. This was at the Emmys over there in Los Angeles last night. Check
No one is illegal on stolen land. And I feel like we just need to keep fighting and speaking up and protesting, and our voices really do matter, and the people matter, and I say sorry.
Congratulations, Billie Eilish. Wow. That is a Grammy that every artist wants, almost as much as Trump wants Greenland, which makes sense. I mean, because Epstein's island is gone, he needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton. So, I told you it's my last year. What are you going to do about it?
I'm going to say, eyes out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans.
That's Bad Bunny, one of my favourite artists of all time. Who the hell is he? But what a load of nonsense. And by the way, Trevor Noah might be in trouble there for his anti-Trump rant there, because he talks about Trump basically going to Pedo Island, Jeffrey Epstein's island, that he never went. There is there's no evidence he ever went to Pedo Island. In fact, he fell out with Epstein, and Donald Trump is threatening to sue Trevor Noah. And frankly, if he does, he would deserve it, wouldn't he?
Well, yeah, Trevor Noah, the host there, saying it's his last year, so he can say what he wants and what are you going to do about it? Well, what we're going to do about it from Trump is, Team Trump is saying, we're going to sue you. And we know that Trump likes to sue. We've got the BBC still waiting on their $1 billion, however much, with the lawsuit that's coming up. So, yeah, I mean, even though it was a really great night for British artists like Olivia Dean, who won the Best New Artist, and Lola Young for her pop performance of Messi. And there were really great performances on stage, actually, from Lady Gaga and Sabrina Carpenter. But actually that moment kind of took off because Trump went on Truth Social and he had a go at Trevor Noah and said how unhappy he was, and he said he was going to sue about it because it just simply isn't true that he was on Epstein Island.
Exactly right. And all these people, don't forget, in the run-up to the last presidential election, the whole of Hollywood's going, don't vote for Kamala Harris, don't vote for Trump, Trump's horrible, don't vote. America completely ignored them. America doesn't care what Hollywood stars think about politics. As I say, they're perfectly entitled to have their viewpoints, and if they want to make fools of themselves shouting away at the pulpit after they've won an award, I suppose that's up to them. But what I object to is they expect us to take them seriously. As Ricky Gervais quite rightly said, why should we? Most of them went to school less than Greta Thunberg. Great to talk to you, Amanda, as always. Thank you so much. Amanda Devlin there, Assistant Showbiz Editor at The Sun. They get on your nerves, don't they, these showbiz? We're all so left-wing, we can afford it. We can afford to be socialists because we've got the money. We haven't, and we can't afford it. Let's go to the phones before Alex comes in. Let's talk to Tarquin in London. Hi, Tarquin.
Kev, it's been a long time, brother. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm here and drive at the moment, so good.
Show. You're doing a great job. Mind you, we do miss you on the late shift too. I mean, can't you do both?
Do both, yeah. Do 6 hours a day. Yeah, why not? Why not? Mandelson, you share my fears that this guy may have been a corrupt person at the centre of government for many years.
Indeed, and I think it probably goes deeper than that, because I think this Machiavellian character, the prince himself, who has been sniffing around since Kinnock days, those of us old enough to remember, he was sniffing around Kinnock's rectal passage 30 years ago, a long time ago, wasn't he?
I don't think we'll put it that way.
With the new kid on the block, you know, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Blair. I think that if he gets charged, as you quite right, I think he should be charged. I think he should back the allegations. should be put to him, I think then at that time we should subpoena Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, because I think they...
And of course Keir Starmer now. You're right. I mean, this guy, if these allegations in the Epstein files are true, this guy was taking money from an American billionaire businessman while he was business secretary. His boyfriend was taking money from Epstein while he was trade envoy and an MP and an important figure in Blair's government. According to the Epstein files, Mandelson received $75,000 from Epstein and now says he can't recall it. It must be false. It sounds to me as if Peter Mandelson, after all these years, still doesn't realise that you can't just lie your way out of every problem. I keep hearing this guy's the cleverest man in Parliament. Clever people don't get caught. As I said earlier, Tarquin, this guy can't even go for a pee in the street outside George Osborne's house without being caught. If he's so clever, how come he gets caught every single time? I think he's an idiot. I really do. And I think he needs his collar felt. Tarquin, great to talk to you as always. Tarquin in London. Alex Phillips is in the studio. What do you think about Mandelson? This is serious, isn't it?
This has been serious for a long time. And I think what we need to remind ourselves of, because this government get away with so much stuff again and again and again, we need to remind ourselves that the agencies said we had given a report to the Prime Minister, to the government, saying beware appointing this man.
Yes.
And he ignored it. He keeps ignoring warnings from MI5 and MI6 over and over again. Over and over again. And that is a man who's therefore jeopardising national security, our international reputation. I mean, what on earth was he thinking, appointing Mandelson?
Exactly.
Unless they're all part of some sort of crooked cartel together and all have sort of WMD against each other. What was he thinking?
Well, my view on that, the chronology of that, is that Tony Blair told him, oh, get my old mate Peter Mandelson. He was brilliant during New Labour. Get him in as the ambassador in Washington. Keir Starmer, oh, all right,
and who was the ambassador in Washington when the big seller to the Chagos Islands was happening, who managed to convince the Americans it was a good idea?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.